The basement, where nerdiness thrives, and grown men rant about toys.
What's up, basement dwellers? It's your fucking pals, Frank Del Vecchio and Travis.
Back again. Doing this more frequently now that we have the time to do it. And,
Yeah. Oh my god, dude, I was looking at it. We only did like 4 or 5 episodes last year, and only like 4 the year before. And I'm like,
it's crazy. And like, it really, time is really relative when it comes to this stuff, because it doesn't feel like we did this stuff that long ago. Like,
yeah.
Quite frankly, the podcast still feels relatively new to me. You know, I'm still learning the ropes of how to do it. And we've been doing this for a couple of years now.
Seriously. So, what have you been up to? I think we recorded Mallrats on Sunday?
Saturday. Or was it? No, it was Sunday. Yeah. We initially planned for Saturday, but if we have free time, like, we'll do it either the day before or the day after if Saturday is hooked. And I remember you were apocalypse shopping, as mentioned before, so yeah, we pushed it to Sunday. But we're continuing the Kevin Smith retrospective, and the thought occurred to me today that, like, we've reached the place in Kevin Smith's filmography where audiences either shat or got off the pot, as Randall would put it.
Yeah, this is this is the movie that snob motherfuckers say is the only Kevin Smith movie they like, and it's a movie that people who just want Jay and Silent Bob say this is their least favorite. Now, like I mentioned before many times, that I always said this was my least favorite because I thought it was boring. Now, you gotta put it in perspective. I think I mentioned it on the last podcast that the first time I watched it, I was a young-ass teenager, and yeah, I just wanted Jay and Silent Bob shit. And so when I watched it, I wasn't paying any kind of attention. And then the second time I watched this was about 10 years ago. I rented it and was like, you know, let me give it another shot. It's been a while. And I remember liking it more then, but I forgot pretty much everything about it since. And now that I've watched it here recently, within the past couple days, damn, has my opinion... I actually have an opinion on the movie now, basically.
Yeah. I watched the movie a couple of times. Like, maybe, I'll say 3 to 4, maybe 5 times. Because whenever I discover, like, a filmmaker, or, like... Because you gotta understand, like, I found Kevin Smith movies, like, in my mid-teenhood. I was aware of the Clerks animated series since childhood, but I really got into his films, like, early high school. And most of my friends, they were into movies, but they weren't, like, into it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would find these movies and I'm like, oh, I feel like they would really like this, and then I would show them. So I watched these movies multiple times because, like, there's my initial watching, and then there's me spreading it out to my friends, and I want to be there to see, like, what they think about it. So I've seen all the Kevin Smith movies, like, a handful of times, but Chasing Amy might have been the one I've seen the least, but it's the one I've had the weirdest track record with. Because in early high school, I fucking loved this movie, you know, like, I don't know if it was just the angst of the time or something, but something about it like really spoke to me. I liked that it tried to blend comedy and drama as opposed to. So most people were just looking for the Jay and Silent Bob. I was in my artsy filmmaker phase, so I kind of welcomed it. Then I watched it again, showing it to like my brother or one of my friends, and I just couldn't stand it. I was like, this movie's fucking annoying, and I can only watch these horrible people get into arguments so many times. I was like, I don't really know what I saw in it the first time. And then I just kind of, like, was left in the middle about it. Then I was just kind of like, it's alright. Now I watched it again, and I'm right back where I started, where I'm like, this is actually a really fascinating, well-put-together movie, and some of the stuff that you can kind of criticize it for, I'm going to try to, like, twist it around, but there...
Yeah, I get what you mean about the stuff you can criticize it for, but I think that...
Its flaws.
There's a reason for certain things. But dude, I think my earliest idea of this movie existing was 97, and I was staying at my grandparents' house. I was like 11 years old, and I had got a bunch of Wolverine comics, like new Wolverine comics at the time, and straight up that original poster, there was an ad on the very back page for Chase and Amy, and it was the original poster where it's just Joey Lauren Adams' face, and I remember being like, why do I not know about this movie? Like, why haven't I seen commercials for this movie? Like, what is this? I remember thinking all that, but then I forgot about it until I started getting into Kevin Smith and then realized, oh shit, he did that movie? Well, fuck, I need to see it.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is like, despite its flaws, there's still something really intellectually engaging about this film, and something really funny about the film that, like, you can kind of move past it. And a lot of the stuff that now a modern audience criticizes it for is its representation, because, it was a different time, so the writing's not going to be, like, 100%, but I think the fact that it made the effort to make this a dialogue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's even put it up at all,
To me, even though you can look at it through today's glasses and be like, ooh,
it's not meant to. You're meant to look at it through Holden and Banky's view, where you're a Catholic boy from Jersey who's never seen any of this shit before.
Yeah, and when you look at it exactly, Holden has never seen this shit before. Banky is much more open to it, because
he's more ignorant to it as well, which is really weird.
And say what?
But he's also like weirdly ignorant to it as well. So although he's more open, like there's that great bar scene, I feel like he's kind of just like fucking around. You know what I mean? He lives to fuck around.
Yeah, he is definitely not homophobic. He's like me and my buddies who grew up saying, oh man, that's gay. Shit like that, right?
He doesn't understand it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And, where I grew out of saying all that, stuff, putting things down, using those words, I see this and I'm like, damn, we used to be that. A lot of us used to be that, where you're not necessarily homophobic, but you're throwing these words around to put something down. But I think Banky is on the lines where he could be friends with that community, and especially in the 90s, he's throwing that word around ignorantly just because he doesn't know. He grew up hearing that as a put down for things he doesn't like. And, people could easily say, oh, he's homophobic, he's saying all this stuff, but when Hooper straight up kisses him, he doesn't bat an eye to it. Like he brushes it off like it's nothing. So that shows that he's totally cool with that lifestyle and shit, and that it's not gonna bother him. He just has his way of talking about shit. Everyone else has their ways of talking about shit.
The thing about Banky, and I think the reason why people think of him like that is because he does have that tendency, though. Like, this is one of his flaws, is he gets wrapped up. He's almost like Brody Deluxe in a way. Like,
Yeah.
he starts getting wrapped up in what he's saying, and then he'll say that one thing that just goes right over the line, and he says it loudly, too. Like, there's that moment where they're waiting in the office, and he's doing the monologue about, like, all a good lesbian needs is a deep dicking, and, like, that's just not, anywhere you should say that. You know what I mean?
That is pretty far from the truth, but that's his weird philosophy.
It's not even the fact that he said, but it's like he's so just like it doesn't matter where he is, I guess is what it is. Like, I think they say something like in the movie, like, wherever he goes, like, disaster follows.
Yeah, because he's gonna open his mouth. Whereas, like, Brody, like we mentioned before, it feels more like he wants to act out in front of people that allow him to act out. He's always looking for somebody's reaction and smile, and he'll go over the top if he sees he's getting a laugh. Whereas Banky just nobody, like, especially Holden, who in other movies Holden would be the one egging this on. Holden is the one trying to hold him back, and therefore that is kind of making him go out further. And that shit.
So what was cracking me up is I was looking up reviews, because it is one of those movies where, like, I enjoy it, but, like, there are times where you try to, like, push yourself out of a critical mindset and stuff like that, and I just started laughing because there's some people who just, like, look at it in face value. So here's what it's titled No, No, No. and
where are these reviews from?
It's when you look up Chasing Amy, it's one of the ones that just pop up underneath, like, so I'm assuming they're from Rotten Tomatoes. But it says, Holden, a completely selfish idiot who thinks he's wise and sensitive, is smitten with Alyssa. When revealed that Alyssa is off the market, she is seeing someone after all. He still decides to hang out with her as a friend, in quotation marks, though he's still crushing hard for her. Later, he decides to potentially destroy several relationships to have what only he wants. So basically, he's going into, like, the character flaws, and nobody's denying that that's kind of what he does.
Yeah, he's
the movie's never stating that's a good thing.
Exactly. This movie easily has a lot of the, especially mid-90s romantic comedy tropes, where you've got the hopeless in love guy with the girl who is very different than he is, and you have the inappropriate friend, you've got her friends, and you've got the big blow up over some sort of insecurity. But what this movie does differently is the fact that it turns all that on its head. He's fallen in love with a lesbian.
That's what I like.
Yeah, she's trying something different, but really can't change who she is. The inappropriate friend is really inappropriate. And then, like, nothing. It all works out for them to an extent at the end, but nobody gets what they want. Which I fucking commend. Like, I'm like, this shit is real fucking good, different, and
it works as a good satire of those kind of tropes, because, and I think this is a really good, like, response to Mallrats, because although I do love that movie, the way Kevin Smith describes it is a talentless kid trying to make a film he grew up watching. So he just kind of based a lot of it off of the tropes of the Hangout movies and, the comedies of the time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a lot of Fast Times at Ridgemont High in there. You know, he took his inspirations. What I like about this is now, after getting flacked for that, he's like, all right, well, how about I make a movie that's going to look familiar, but then when you watch it, you know, it's something completely different.
Yeah. And it, damn it, I was going to say something, but, totally forgot what I was going to say.
Pardon?
It'll come back to me.
I think if you give time to it, like, Chasing Amy could probably produce the most discussions out of any of Kevin Smith's films. Maybe second being Dogma.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What I was going to say was, where I hated the straight Hollywood romance between T.S. and Brandy in Mallrats, this movie makes up for with a lot of real relationship problems. With Holden being your fucking just macho motherfucker who loves the idea of him being the first one to give this chick some dick. And when he finds out that she's had encounters before, it fucks with him and it eats his ass up. Even when Hooper is straight up telling him, look, man, you need to just let it go. And he says, just ask her flat out. You know, just ask her flat out before it becomes a problem. What instantly happens is he goes to the hockey game with Alyssa. And, man, it just turns it into a straight fucking dick move. Pisses her off. And he still doesn't see where he's wrong. Like, she's straight up fucking flat out telling him why the hell he is wrong. And he is still being a fucking dick. And it's hard to watch, but it's meant to be. Because that's some real ass shit right there. Like, we have all either been that guy or known people like that who have those kind of, those macho insecurities that, you know, like me, I don't give a fuck. You know, like, Silent Bob has some of the best relationship advice I have ever fucking heard in this goddamn movie and anywhere else afterward. Now, isn't that saying something?
It says a lot while being silent.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, he doesn't really need to say it because he's kind of got it figured out at this point. He's matured above all the other universe characters, and that's what I've always loved about him. Is he's smarter than the entire town, but he just rolls with it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're definitely making a good point that it is uncomfortable, but that's sort of the point. From the beginning, he's warned, do not do this.
Yeah, and he is not listening to anybody. His dick. He's thinking with his dick.
Maybe not a relationship, but everyone's had a situation in their life where you're told not to do it, but there's something in you, whether it be pride, an insecurity, all of it together, just a mix of emotions. Something just compels you. You're going to do it. You've already made up your mind.
Yeah, and that's something I commend this movie about, because in most romantic comedies, you don't get that kind of real shit in there.
I think that's what people weren't ready for.
Yeah, this movie was way ahead of its time, incredibly progressive for its time in the way it portrays those different lifestyles. Yeah, there's jokes and shit thrown in there, but I still believe they handle it pretty well for something that came out in 97.
Yeah. Again, you have to look at it in that lens nowadays, because today everyone has like such a high standard to things now when it comes to representation and stuff like that. It's really like thin ice, but you really got to put yourself that it's set in the 90s. It was made in the 90s, so you just got to bring yourself back to that time and just, you know,
and for something,
like they're just not living in a time where that is as accessible.
Yeah. And for something from the 90s, I think it's handling all that shit pretty well. A lot.
I was going to say, aside from a line or two at the bar scene, I think a lot of the writing is actually pretty mature about it. And again, we're seeing it through Holden's perspective. So yes, things aren't going to be displayed like you would necessarily want them to. It's because he's naive and learning, and he doesn't understand.
Therefore, the audience, most of the audience was naive and learning about something they don't understand. This movie is incredibly deep for for something that is a product of the Askewniverse. And what's so crazy is, you know, the word askew, you know, based off of what it means, this and easily Dogma are two of the only movies in the Askewniverse that actually askew any kind of view.
Yeah. True. You know, there's some dialogue in the other movies that maybe make you turn your head, but it's like talk about Star Wars and shit, like it's harmless. Like this stuff actually like has topics,
and
issue to, you know, discuss, especially Dogma. But
yeah, and each side's have the equal amount of time to say something, and every side gets to make their point, and really it's up to the audience to think about that and maybe make up their own decision.
Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people, if you watch like the evening with Kevin Smith and stuff like that, there are people who went into the movie and just fell in love with Banky, and like they loved Brody, they related to Jason Lee, like they were the ones that they were rooting for, and in turn, some of this like crazy shit that he's saying, they just kind of like backed up and they're like, yeah, man, but then by the end, he kisses his friend, or his friend kisses him, and he's just like, Kevin Smith was like at a test screening where he's in the back, and some guy stood up and he's like, well, now what does that mean about me? You know, I don't really get down with all this gay stuff. Like, what does it mean? And Kevin Smith from the back is just, it means you're fucking gay.
But yeah, there is a lot to be said about this movie, and I have a decent amount of notes from when we start going into our little recap or our basic review of the scene by scene. But man, if this movie didn't change I guess like I said, I never really had an opinion before. But what I do want to say is I have finally watched Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. It is on Amazon Prime. And I can't wait till we get to that because I absolutely loved it. And but I have one question. What happened to Ben Affleck, man?
What do you mean, like, what happened to Ben Affleck?
Like,
I've only watched the movie like twice. So
he's straight up, like, nothing wrong with it, but he straight up looks like he's had some kind of surgery done because he is not looking like Ben Affleck from a year ago. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. There's something about his face in this movie that is almost uncanny valley. Like, you're like, is this Ben Affleck? Huh?
That's what I noticed. I just thought his hair was like cut uncomfortably short. And yeah, his face, it's probably the way it's lit.
I don't know, man. Put a picture of Reboot Ben Affleck and Justice League Ben Affleck together, like the face, and
there probably some work done.
Yeah, it's like, whoa. What, like, dude, Stas, when we were watching it, she didn't even recognize him, and it took me a minute to be like, is this a... I know Kevin and Ben were kind of having a little, you know, fight there, but is this somebody else playing Holden? What's going on here?
Gee, Ben Affleck.
It was weird looking. But people get older. I mean, it was wild seeing, huh?
Sorry, I don't mean to talk over you, but I am excited to talk about the movie because one of the standout scenes is that I like that he threw in the kind of half sequel to Chasing Amy in there.
Yeah, that was actually a big surprise because I expected to see Holden like we did on Strikes Back, but I wasn't expecting to see fucking what the hell is her name?
What they do with them.
Yeah, like I wasn't expecting to see her show up. Joey Lauren, what the fuck is her goddamn name? Joey Lauren Adams. I wasn't expecting to see her pop up. So that was really cool. I mean, even like minor characters like the two guys who were trying to buy weed from Jay and Strikes Back popping up, like, you know, they're.
It was really cool.
Yeah, it's like I kind of say. I like how this and even Mallrats, they do their references very subtle. Like this one, hardcore subtle references to the other movies before it. But I do like how Strikes Back and Reboot are just, those references are winking at the camera. It's saying, hey, remember this guy from this movie? Remember this guy from this movie? But I love that too. I like how these ones are more subtle. It makes sense in the Jay and Silent Bob world for it to be that cartoony.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the other movies where it's not about Jay and Silent Bob, the references are definitely much more subtle, like in a real life perspective. These characters know these characters. They're gonna mention these characters if they're friends with them. Somebody who knows somebody is going to mention somebody. And so I like the fact that the references in both style movies sort of reflect the style of movies they are.
Yeah, that's the thing I want to mention is, you know, when you're a teenager and just looking for Jay and Silent Bob,
you're missing these references. At least the subtle ones. I was.
The heavy dialogue, you can kind of get lost in it and you're not paying attention because you're kind of waiting for the next joke. You weren't expecting a drama, so now you're getting bored and you don't pay attention. But now that I'm older, I watch it and the dialogue, it's now that you're like into the universe, you know?
Yeah.
The dialogue is really compelling and fun, and all the callbacks are really just, like you said, so subtly like crafted into it where like if you're not keen on these movies, it seems like brand new dialogue, but they mentioned so many subplots that we're already used to, you know?
Yeah.
Brandy's face mentioned, the fucking...
Oh my god.
The pool incident, all of that stuff, the quick stop.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into that when we get into the scene by scene, which I guess we're pretty much at that point. Let me smoke a cig real quick before we get deeper into this with the scene by scene. Yeah, okay, alright, we're back. I had to get a cigarette because this might be a fairly long episode because there's actually a lot of adult themes that when it comes to the Askewniverse, you know, there's not a whole lot of adult content technically, you know, like mature adult themes that get thrown around, and I'm actually kind of happy for this slight change of pace here.
Yeah, no, it's really refreshing, and it shows a big sign of maturity. Like I said with the last podcast with Mallrats, you see that progression from Clerks to Mallrats, but this seems like 2.5 progressions into Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
And I think it is because the effort that was put into Mallrats really did go unappreciated, and I feel like, you know, on its initial release, Kevin probably did feel a little raw because its theatrical release did not do that well. It only really made a cult following slowly through the video releases. So I think it really pushed him to try like twice as hard to really make a film that stands out in the Askewniverse and what's the word I'm looking for? Really just elevate itself.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Definitely. It feels a lot closer to Clerks, with the more dialogue heavy, but with obviously more environments, more places, where the nerd dialogue is there, but it's not heavy. These characters, the characters who, what I like about Smith is the characters that should be making certain references are the ones making certain references. Much like Brody being one of the few who straight up talks about all the comic books, because he's a comic book fan. So yeah, it's, these characters feel real. It's not like where every character is a film buff and they're all dropping fucking obscure movie references just for the sake of it. Whereas, like,
Strikes Back or Reboot or even Mallrats.
yeah. Even when you get to the very short but real amazing Jay and Silent Bob cameo, they feel more like...
It's the most... Yeah.
Huh?
It's the most to Earth they've ever been.
Yeah, it feels more like the Clerks Jay and Silent Bob as opposed to the silly cartoon Jay and Silent Bob that we get in Mallrats. Even down to Jay's more reserved style of talking, where he straight up... It's weird, because when you see Clerks, you could say that more reserved Jay performance is because he's Muse is probably shy and doesn't really know how to act yet. But then when you get to Mallrats, he is straight up eating up the camera. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
And then when you get back to this, you get that sort of reserved, kind of shy, looking down while he speaks kind of performance.
And even down, it almost feels like a different universe, because, like, he stands up and he's talking about the comic books, and he's like, "You have us saying that stupid shit. Like, what is it? Snoochie Boochies?"
Yeah,
like,
when he was straight up saying that shit in Mallrats.
I love it.
Yeah.
There was a comic book that kind of followed their story from there to where they ended up in Dogma. It was called Chasing Dogma, that he did, I think around, like, the late 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
Probably around the animated series. I haven't read it yet, but it does sound like a fun little idea.
Yeah, see how they get to where they're eventually going to be. So are we ready to get into the scene by scene?
The recap, I'm in.
The movie starts off... I love this opening. Because it's very much like the Mallrats opening, but less 90s.
Yeah, what it is he took it and he flipped it, and now it's something more, like, oddly melancholic.
Yeah, that song. Whoever does that song, that wah, I love that song. And another thing that I love is when you get... this is jumping way ahead movie-wise, but what I do like is that characters in this universe have their own theme song. Whenever you see Holden pop up again, you have that theme play. And like in Reboot, when it shows Brody at Brody's Secret Stash, it's playing the punk song that opened Dogma. And I like that like characters kind of have their own little theme song.
Yeah, it was... They did the Mallrats opening, and with Matt Damon, they had the holy, like, Dogma music playing.
Yeah. But yeah, so the opening, yeah, very much like Mallrats, but not as 90s. You got that sort of somber kind of song going on, and it's showing comic book imagery, but it's Blunt Man and Chronic stuff.
Yep.
And then it looks like little news articles about Banky and Holden, and I like their little comic book company name, Bank Hold Up. That's pretty fairly clever.
Yeah.
So boom, it opens up in a little comic book convention. Now this shows you something. When you see Reboot and you see how big and just commercial that Comic Con thing they're doing is, that very much represents comic book conventions of today, whereas when you see this one, dead ass for real, this is a really good representation of the early days of little comic conventions, where it's in a small fucking building, things are cluttered, it is too close together.
Guests are really only like comic book creators and comic book artists. Like, it really is like by fans for fans. I don't know if they say it in the film, but in the script I believe it's supposed to be the actual New York Comic Con at the time. Which, to think about that now, compared to what it is.
Yeah, because it's hard to go back and believe that these were some real small events for a long time before they became the massive celebrity fucking just too big for anything. It's hard to believe that, you know, when you're in the 90s, you would have never thought that something like this would have been as mainstream as it is today.
The culture of cons have changed so much. Like, you look at that convention scene and you see, like, barely one cosplayer, like, in there.
Yeah, seriously. And, you know, I don't know if they even still do it, but Columbus University here every year would do Nerdicon, and it was a free con, which was really cool. And we went a couple times, and we would promote our YouTube and give out free CDs to everybody. And it was very much like the con in here, because it was a very small con. But like, I'll never forget, they actually had a sci-fi guy as one of the guests, and we met him and talked to him for a second. But fucking, you know, it felt cool, it felt small, you know, it was like, I can do this. I don't know if I can do the big, massive things, you know what I'm saying? But I liked that small, intimate setting.
Yeah, recently I was at this horror convention called Grindhouse Nights.
Yeah.
And I was expecting it to be kind of like, because they say it's a film festival, so I was expecting it to be like kind of a competition, like, oh, I hope we win something. But then you find out the location's at a bar, and all it is like, no, we just like to screen horror movies and, you know, just have a good time. And it turns into just like one big party where you just talk about your movie. I could do that, like, till the cows come home. But I can't imagine, like, imagine, like, being in the Star Wars cast and having to go up on that stage to, like, billions.
Seriously.
Just a wave of people, and somehow it's still cramped there.
Yeah, seriously. So what I like is it's showing the different aspects of this con, and then you get your first glimpse of Ben Affleck, and straight up Willem shows up. Now, he's credited as fan, but that's fucking Willem.
It's unmistakable.
Yeah, like he's even. Yeah, that jacket looks too similar to what he's wearing in Mallrats. That's fucking Willem.
Just slid him in there.
Yeah, he's seen his sailboat, so he can venture away from the mall finally. And he goes to a little con and gets his comic book signed. And I like how he fucking just straight up fucking, oh man, I love this comic, man. They're
I
like,
was just fighting crime, smoking weed.
yeah, I just wish I could fucking be smoking weed all the time. And man, they're like, what did he say? Bill and Ted?
Yeah, they're like
Bill and Ted
Bill
meets
and Ted eat something else.
Cheech and Chong, man. And you know, and by that point, you can see that Ben Affleck's character, you can see that Holden is about tired of this shit.
Yeah, he's very dismissive, and even Banky at this point is starting. You can tell like it's late into the con, and they just want to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, and fucking that guy's giving Banky shit about being the inker, calling it, oh, you're just a tracer. You're just huh?
That is Mosier. That is Scott Mosier, the producer, and he played the original Willem Black in Clerks.
Okay, see, I always know Scott Mosier because he's like Kevin's right-hand man in like everything. Yeah. But I can never place him. But now that I seen him, I'm like, okay, so that's him then. See, I didn't know that was him either, you know, when I was just watching this. But that's cool to know. Because even like in Tusk, they give him a fucking name drop. Michael Parks says, yeah, my friend Mosier. And that's like, you know, the French-Canadian version of Scott Mosier.
I think Mallrats, one of the characters' last name is Mosier. And what I love about when Kevin gets his friends to play characters is they always put a little bit of a cartoony angle onto it. And it just really meshes, like... The way it meshes is, like, really funny to me, because you'll have Jason Lee, the serious actor, like, you know, rehearsing his dialogue, doing it the way it's supposed to be, and then you have Scott Mosier, who's, like, bugging his eyes out, so you just go over the picture in ink, you're a tracer. Like, he bugs his eyes out at him.
Yeah.
I just love the what's on. So you trace, just admit it, that's what you do.
Oh, my God. But who is that kid who comes up right after him, and he's asking the kid, hey, when you draw over something, you know, let's say you do the same drawing right on top of it, what do you call that? He's like, I don't know, tracing? That kid, I swear, he is so familiar looking.
I don't know who it is. I'm looking at the cast right now, and I'm trying to associate, like, everybody with the, I'm trying to associate everybody with the scenes. There is... It says Casey Affleck was the little kid, but I know where the little kid was. That was in the record store.
Whoa, which one was Casey Affleck?
Casey Affleck was the little kid in the record store when fucking Hooper's like, you see that man over there? That's the devil. No, that's not that. That's not. I'm thinking of. No, it's not.
Because that's a little black kid.
Yeah, no. What the fuck am I talking about?
Who is Casey Affleck? The one that maybe Banky is showing the porn to? But then that's way too young, man. That is way too young.
Would be young at the time.
But he wouldn't be like a toddler. Because because Casey Affleck stars in Drowning Mona, which came out just 3 years later.
So that's something to look out for. I didn't know he was in the movie. It was right when I pulled it up now. I can't believe I got that fucking scene mixed up, honestly.
What? Oh my God. Dude, okay, I'm wanting to say it now. Is Casey Affleck the one at that beginning scene with Banky? And it looks like him.
Yeah, no, that is definitely... Yeah, so it was him all along. We've come full circle.
Dude!
He's Strayson?
Dude! Because you know that's Ben's brother, man. You know that's Ben's fucking brother.
Yeah.
Dude!
That's... I think, though, why credit him as little kid?
Right. Here, I'm Googling it now. Chasing Amy, fucking, goddamn, Casey Affleck. Yeah, dude, that is him.
Because
That
when
is
I
him.
think Chasing,
I knew it. I knew I saw
think of
this
the record.
motherfucker before. God damn.
that just fucked with my head.
Holy shit.
But that's what this whole movie's about, is characters getting their heads fucked with.
For real, right? Yeah, but have you ever seen Drowning Mona?
I really can't get over that I fucked up that scene.
Yeah, dude, because when you were saying that, I was like, that was a little black kid.
That doesn't make
Why would he be telling a white kid that the white man over there is the devil?
Oh, man.
Oh, man,
That was one for the...
but no, have you ever seen Drowning Mona with Danny DeVito, fucking, God, what's the Scream girl's name? Nev Campbell and...
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's really good. It is a movie to behold. It's got Bette Miller in it. It's a real funny movie that it's a real huh?
For this before. I've seen the poster of this before. Jamie Lee Curtis, Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Real cool, real fun, fucking weird, fucking movie.
So we're still at the con.
Yeah, we're still at the con. So at this point, Banky gets pissed and starts attacking Scott Mosier. And security comes, takes him away, and Ben says, "Man, what are you doing?" But curtains in 10 minutes or something or another. So we cut to the character. I love this character, Hooper X.
He might be my favorite character in the entire movie. And
he's
right
one
off
of the
bat,
few actually likable characters.
Yes, exactly. He's really the one who doesn't make any fucking stupid decisions. He has his shit together from day one. And what I like about this movie is it does kind of begin on familiar ground. We start off with the real Smithian dialogue of Star Wars,
comic
Darth
book
Vader,
shit,
Calrissian, all that stuff. And then, as the movie goes on, it slowly distances itself away from the pop culture into just, this is their lives now, outside of their social group.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love the shit out of that.
For the first time, we see what happens behind closed doors.
Yeah, exactly. Because, when they're out there in front of all these people, they gotta put on a face. Which, in many ways, like, Hooper is a major embodiment of that. Because he's gotta put on that front as the freaking militant Black Panther kind of guy when he's in front of all these people, but when he's behind closed doors, he's the exact opposite. He's a straight up gay man looking for Yanni CDs. Which remind me, when we get to that scene at the record store, man, do I have some shit to say. I got it all in my notes, but don't want to forget. But Hooper is so fun at the beginning because he's making his big little speech about how the comic book people are representing black men, and his comic book is called White Hatin' Coon. And I wish this comic book existed. I would love to see what goes on in the pages. And what I love is, not only is his superhero a black man, but he is a descendant of the original black tribe that began civilization. And his superhero not only has to be a black dude, but he has to be like the first man.
The prime black man.
Yeah, fucking love that shit. And goddamn Holden and Banky are playing along, and so he gets to have his Star Wars speech and straight up call Lando Calrissian an Uncle Tom. Oh, my! Oh my
And
god.
it's like you can already tell something's up because Banky and Holden are screwing with him the entire time. And you can tell, like, they're trying to hold back laughter.
Yeah.
Hell, what about Land Calrissian? He was a positive figure. He was a black guy. He got to fly the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is there I don't believe I saw a single black person in Hooper's audience.
No, I don't think there is.
So he's up here preaching this to all these white guys, and I don't know, it's kind of funny to me. But I need to go back a couple moments when Banky is being fucked with about being a tracer. Did you notice what character is drawn into that big poster art for some Blunt Man and Chronic?
It's your boy LaForge.
Motherfucking LaForge is a character in the Blunt Man and Chronic comic books. Like, what? Straw hat and all.
I'd like to think he's like a reoccurring villain. But
Yeah,
like a small-time crook.
exactly. Like, for real, man.
Knocker.
Like, oh my god. But yeah, so it's real funny. They get up and motherfucking Hooper pulls out a gun and fucking shoots Banky and starts screaming black rage. And all the attendees leave. They run out of there screaming and fucking.
Another thing you can't get away with today.
Huh?
Another thing you can't get away with today, and probably wouldn't get away with back then. But they do say that Hooper's publishing company like promotes this kind of behavior from them.
Yeah.
Like, they like.
It's all part of his image.
Yeah. And I love how fucking Banky straight up gets shot, essentially.
Yeah, basically.
And I remember when I saw this movie as a kid, as an early high schooler, I was like, wait, what?
So they
Like,
get
Banky's dead.
Yeah. Like, whoa, this movie got dark quick.
I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
This wasn't represented on the poster art.
Yeah, I'm like, false advertising? Fucks. But he gets up and they start fooling around. But this is when we get introduced to Alyssa.
Alyssa Jones.
Who is referenced in Clerks. I think I mentioned that in the Clerks cast, that Alyssa Jones' sister is the one that ends up leaving the Quick Stop with Rick Darris. But it's funny that Rick Darris even comes into the picture there, because we'll find out what happened between Alyssa and Rick.
Yeah, so which one was Alyssa's sister in Clerks?
If you remember, she was the girl in the scene where he's giving the dude the milk, and the fitness guy's all like, oh, you're out of shape. Just admit it. You know, that was a grunt. And, you know, he starts flirting on the girl, and he says, she mentions that she's Alyssa Jones' sister, and Rick mentions that he used to hang out with Alyssa a lot.
Oh, crazy, man. Crazy.
So he was like, these little breadcrumbs, like, early on, and I guess he, like, looked back at this old film, he's like, I wonder what Alyssa's like.
Crazy, because even Alyssa says later on that when Rick Darris and Coey would come over to the house, they would always be picking on her sister.
And yeah, that's the thing. He doesn't recognize his sister first. He's like, wow, like, you're Alyssa's sister? Like, So yeah, it all comes together. So you could assume that the events, the finger cuff story, probably happened before Clerks.
Oh, obviously, because they're all adults at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is high school when finger cuffs happens. Damn, okay.
Slightly, because they're around, like, it's really funny to think, like, how much time has passed in the Askewniverse since it's only the third movie in. And when we meet them in Clerks, you can see, like, they're probably around the time they should be in college or just be leaving college.
Yeah, like easily early to mid-20s at the latest.
And now they're entering, late 20s, early 30s.
Definitely. And then, too, when you get the Clerks deleted scene of the actual wake, you get Alyssa Jones in there. And they straight up call her finger cuffs. And fucking... So, yeah, there's also that. But, so we meet Alyssa for the first time. And, what the fuck happens?
They're just fucking around a little bit, and they invite them out to the bar.
Yeah. They go to the bar.
And then he wants to get the fuck out of there, while Holden, smitten by Alyssa, is just like, yeah, we'll go out.
Yeah. So they go to the bar, and we get this, fairly funny back and forth between Hooper and Banky about the sexual orientation of Archie Comics characters. And
that
fucking
conversation.
Banky is straight up like, nah, man, Archie is wholesome. It's all wholesome family fun. And I'm like, bruh, just wait till Riverdale comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you have seen nothing yet.
I love how comments like this from Hooper, are genuinely, upsetting fucking Banky. Nowadays, if I got into this conversation and somebody was disagreeing, it would probably just be a conversation like this, but he is, getting up out of his chair, we're going across the street to the comic book store, and I'm going to prove to you that that's not the case.
Yeah, we are going to buy some Archie comics, and I like when Hooper's waving the dollar around. He's like, "What's that?" He's like, "I need you to grab this, go to the store, and buy yourself a Clue." Oh man, that's pretty good. What is that beeping?
Oh, sorry, that's my Facebook.
Oh, I thought it was my computer.
No, I'm gonna silence that.
So, they go to the store, and, they go to the store, and so we have...
And this leaves Alyssa.
Yeah, Alyssa and Holden sitting around, they're playing darts. Now, something I noticed, I had to back up, because I like looking in the backgrounds. And right behind them is, on the left of my vision, alright, is the woman's room. And on the right is the men's room. And they're playing darts, and, they're just talking. But what I noticed, and I had to rewind it a little bit, a man walks out of the ladies' room. And I was like, okay, that's odd. That's weird. Whatever. You keep going, and then a woman comes out of the men's room.
Oh!
Yeah, I was like...
No, I never noticed that.
I was like, what the fuck? Now, I'm like, is that some subliminal shit put in there on purpose? Or was that just accidental because it's a movie set and they need the extras to come out of the bathroom, and to them, who cares what bathroom they come out of? But straight up, I was like, damn.
That's really fucking interesting, actually. I never was looking in the background. That's during the dart throwing, right?
Yeah, during the dart scene, they're playing darts. And
I'm just on that shot and the dialogue that, my eye didn't even, shift to over there.
Yeah, because the dialogue had me the other night when I was watching it, but I was watching it again today, this morning, just as a refresher, and that's when I noticed it. And I was like, whoa, that's odd.
Very interesting. And I also like how that shot is kind of somewhat of a fisheye lens. You see when they move closer to remove the darts.
Yeah.
There's obviously different lens on the camera. It's very visually pleasing.
Yeah, and then it's mostly no cuts.
Yeah.
They cut for the man and woman making out on Banky's car, but for the most part, there aren't really any cuts that I remember. But what are they talking about here? Yeah, he's talking about his main demographic is overweight people and underweight people that can't get laid. While her comic book demographic is the love-struck couple on the hood of the car. And then he's so putting on this bullshit front because he's already liking her. So he starts straight up going for the love talk. And, oh yeah, look at this, you gotta love that kind of public display of affection. These people in love, not caring about who's around them. Like, number one, who straight up starts talking about that shit in front of a lady he just met? Except for some cheap macho guy who is obviously smitten with this new lady, and he's just trying to impress her with his views on love.
Sorry about that. I was just taking care of the noise.
But you know what I mean? But yeah, so she leaves.
Yeah.
And
well, also during this scene, it keeps cutting back to this couple, either making out, fucking on the car.
Yeah, right there on Banky's car.
Yeah. So yeah, she leaves the bar. She says, "Tell Hooper, that I left." And we cut back to Red Bank, which is where they live.
Oh, well, this is when Banky and Hooper come back, and do they have the Archie comics at this point, and they're talking shit?
I think fucking Banky has a couple of Archie comics in his hand. It's really shown that Banky's still on it, while Hooper's been over and done with it an hour ago.
Yeah, and because Hooper even straight up says, he's like, look, nah, he is not fucking Mr. Whatever Worth, and he just offered to help him help him with his homework. He's like, read between the lines, bitch. But yeah, we did forget to mention when they first get there in the convention and they see Hooper. That's when Hooper lays the big one on Banky, the big old kiss, and Banky shows no sort of he does kind of push away, and he's like, hey, I'm not gonna be your catcher. I'll be your victim, but I won't be your catcher. Makes a little joke out of it, when if he was a homophobic character, he'd have been flipping the fuck out. Like, oh my god, this man kissed me, fuck you, what's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's more playful and kind of you can tell it's not real disgust,
Yeah, and that right there, that's a moment in this movie that is incredibly progressive for 97.
And it says so much about the character that, we've mentioned by looking at the reviews, some people just don't notice it, and they'll take what he says to heart.
Yeah.
When people don't realize that, that's kind of Jason Lee's good at playing these characters where the sense of humor is like a shield of armor around some sensitive subject that he's unsure about.
Yeah.
So since his thoughts aren't aligned on this subject, because we've all been there, it's almost a childlike mentality, because I remember doing this in middle school, but when you don't know shit about the subject, you're gonna make fun of it and act like you know everything about it.
Yeah. I mean, I think especially a lot of young kids, young men, young boys, raised around the time we were raised. Like I said, we all kind of grew up, being like, oh, that's gay. But as I got older,
that was pretty prevalent.
Yeah. even me and John have talked about this. You know, a lot of music we listen to, like bands like Ween. You know, they straight up throw the F word out there and stuff. And when we were kids, you know, it was nothing. It was like, oh, that's just something that they're saying. But now when you know, you're like, damn, man, they straight up were like you cannot get away with that today.
Yeah, no, it's really strange, like, going back to even something that was, like, maybe 6 years ago.
Right.
How different things were.
Yeah, like, right before that major fucking shift in the paradigm. But
it's a fascinating phenomenon.
Definitely. So we get to, like, what'd you say, Red Bank, New Jersey?
Which is funny because that is where, in real life, Kevin Smith's Secret Stash comic book shop is, where Comic Book Men is filmed. Or was filmed. So that's a little tidbit. I really like Banky and Holden's style, where they're living together and they're working together.
Yeah, in the same place, too. Like, the office is a part of that apartment. And they've got their Sega, and I'm like, is this the same hockey game that Brody was playing in Mallrats?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you know. And I liked that, you know. Again, I wasn't really paying attention to the movie when I was younger. It only took multiple viewings, like, to slowly, like, shape my opinion on it until my last viewing. I was thinking the exact same thing. I was looking at the controller, and I'm like, that's the exact same game from Mallrats.
But yeah, I dig it. They're doing what a lot of sort of young artists kind of do, collaborative artists. Like, a lot of bands would live together and practice in the same house. You know, when they first start off, a lot of drawing artists would do the same thing, and I like that they throw that in here. And it's a cool space too, like the brick walls and shit. You know, like fucking.
They deck it out all weird. Like, they have, don't they, like, write shit on the walls? Like, there's something written on the door in, like, spray paint.
Oh, yeah, there is something written on the damn door. Oh, I can't remember what it says. But,
Me neither, but what I'm saying is, it's like, they really, like, customize the place a lot. It's just, like, every dude bro's dream.
Yeah, seriously. So they're sitting there drawing, Banky's doing the inking, and he mentions, like, these are some of the best streetlights you've ever drawn. And I like the shit out of that. Because nobody, except for your fucking inker, is paying that much attention to the small details in your comic book.
Yeah, exactly. It's really fun and realistic dialogue in that case, because, like, it reminds me of, like, when you're going over something in editing class and you're paying attention to the most minute details, and then you'll notice it in, like, one of your friend's films, and you'll be like, I noticed that L cut right there.
Yeah, seriously, you know, and I like that because I appreciate that because it speaks to me so much. And I can see it speaking to you so much because, you know, you and I are two different kinds of artists. You know, I'm a very musical artist, so I get that same feel with tiny details that I kind of want people to notice, but I know they're not gonna notice. Except for, like, Zach. Zach will be like, oh, I see what you did there. You know what I mean? And I can do the same thing to Zach on some of his songs. And, it's
that back and forth, because it really does give you that kind of creative boost. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's really nice to have that one friend. I have a friend where we're both really into stop motion animation. That's how I kind of got into filmmaking, was when I was young, when I had, you know, a cheap video camera. I used to just do my own little claymations, and I knew nobody else who really did this, because claymation isn't really like, it's sort of, stop motion has definitely swung back into a little bit of popularity, but it's never been like huge in a major culture, aside from like probably Nightmare Before Christmas was probably the biggest before the recent boom of like Leica films.
Yeah.
But I meet my friend, and he's exactly into like the same stuff, and we'll send each other like little test animations back and forth, and it's kind of a similar deal where like we'll talk about our different tips and tricks. Like my friend animated a frog taking a fly off of a leaf, and what's funny is like you start to notice that like, oh, to make the tongue go, you attach like little pieces of clay each frame. So it's these little conversations that, you know, on a day-to-day basis you don't see, but it seems so like when both parties are so familiar with the art form, like a bond is created, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And it goes to when I'm listening to Rob Zombie's commentary on House of a Thousand Corpses, and he's talking about all the shit that he's putting in frame, and he has people say, why are you putting all that stuff in there? Why are you throwing all these details in there if no one's gonna notice? And Rob Zombie straight up says, well, you notice it more when it's not there. And I'm like, I fucking get that. It blew my mind.
See, say what I will about his movies, I fucking love him as a musician. And honestly, we should do a Rob Zombie retrospective, because I feel like it would lead to some cool conversations, you know?
Yeah.
I can get down with fucking Devil's Rejects. I have 3 from Hell, so I am kind of getting into a Rob Zombie movie, and I kind of want to give him a second chance. So
I would be totally down with that, because I love Rob Zombie as an artist in general. Major fan of his music. Love his movies, not because I like Rob Zombie, just because I like what he's doing. How it's like me and Zach even mentioned before, his horror movies want so bad to be like the Tarantino or Kevin Smith of horror. Like, they want so bad to be that, and I could see it being that, but so many people are not having it.
It took me a really long time to get used to. I look back on like the horror-related podcast that we did, where I was just kind of like, and it's almost kind of a Banky situation. I'm not familiar too much with the films. I only know what I've seen and heard. So I'm just going to be like, it's not really my thing. Same thing with Eli Roth, where now, you know, you kind of think about it. You know, say what you will about Cabin Fever, it has a new relevance.
Yeah, fucking, I love Cabin Fever. Cabin Fever's so fun. But where are we now? This is when, okay, Banky says these streetlights are some of the best you've ever drawn, and then they get a call, and it's Hooper, and Hooper says, hey, we're having a get-together at a place, at a bar called the Meow Mix, and I'm tending bar tonight. Y'all want to come? And first, Holden's like, nah, we got some work to do, we got this meeting in the morning, and he's like, Alyssa Jones wants you there, and he's like, oh shit, okay. And this is another moment that shows you Holden. I love this entire sequence from the phone call to the end of that night, because it shows you how much of a dick Holden really is, and it shows you the progression of his blind fucking dickishness, because it starts off, he gets off the phone, and he's like, I'm hooking up with Alyssa tonight, and he's fucking dancing around, he's just showing off. He is like, I'm getting in this chick's pants. He don't want a relationship yet. He just wants to fucking knock it down. And Banky's just like, whatever, man, you know, and Banky's like, I want to come too. And at first he doesn't want Banky to come. And so Banky comes anyway. And let me stop here because I really got to piss and I want another cigarette, and then we'll talk about the whole Meow Mix scene.
Which might be the best sequence in the movie, honestly.
Definitely.
It's the one I go back to the most, because it has, like, 3 of my favorite sequences in the film.
Yeah, this scene has a lot. A whole lot to go through. And so we'll get back to that in a moment. Alright, we're back. Had to take a smoke break. And like we just say what?
About these, I'm really excited to talk about these sequences.
Yeah, this next sequence of events, like we said, is definitely our favorite sequence because there is so much lore of the Askewniverse that gets thrown out through dialogue that when I was young I never fucking caught because I was bored. I wasn't paying attention. But now I'm like, wow, this and whoa, that, and man, like it's kind of cool.
And not to mention, like, aside from just that, this is where the film's plot really gets rolling.
Definitely gets rolling.
This is where all the pieces are put in place.
Yeah. Because they've already told him, there has already been hints given to Holden, don't fucking fall for this chick. Like, even while they're playing darts, he says, you like her, don't you? He's like, yeah. He's like, well, you know, don't let it go beyond that, you know. And even when they get to the bar,
I think he says, like, just as a friend, and they say, like, yeah, just keep it there.
Yeah, just keep it there. So they get to the bar, and Banky's joking around, talking about, so where's the free beer? And Hooper is the bartender, and Holden shows up, and he's dancing around. He's very big-headed at the moment, very like, I'm gonna get laid, I'm fucking this hot chick, I'm gonna fucking be all about, and fucking Hooper straight up is about to tell him. He's like, there's something you need to know about this girl. And before he could say anything, Holden just says, what, she has a boyfriend? He's like, not exactly. And then Holden just, whatever, throws it off. Where's she at? Oh, she's over there. Been dancing for an hour. And so already he's tried to tell Holden, but Holden, like we said, he's just thinking with his dick at this point.
And he's not taking it seriously either. Like, he's out there, he's having fun, he's being a fucking goof.
Yeah. He's just wanting to get laid. And so he bumps into her, whoa, what are you doing here? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And she mentions that they're from the same town, just different schools. And here's where a lot of lore gets dropped. Fucking, he mentions Quick Stop, and he's like, yeah, that's where my best friend fucked the dead guy in the bathroom. Obviously, Caitlin Bree, and
before she got, which, you know, as we saw. So, to me, I wonder what became of Caitlin Bree. Is she still there by the time of Chasing Amy, or
she said she was in the mental institution. She said, yeah, you know, before she went to that mental institution. So, obviously, fucking the dead guy really fucked with her.
She only returns in Clerks the Animated Series.
Yeah, seriously. And, you know, I wonder how much the animated series is really canon, or is that, like, separate?
It's probably like its own little world, but I like to believe that somehow she found her way out just to have a better
ending for that character.
Yeah, because, like, Jesus Christ.
Because even, like we mentioned before in the Clerks cast, that she passed away, not too long ago, and didn't really have any kind of career, you know, because of the straight up drugs, I believe it was. But yes,
it's really it's really tragic, and it's weird that like the character leaves on such a tragedy as well.
Yeah.
But even like in Clerks the animated series, they did get her to voice her. She's still just used as like the butt of the joke. Like, so even if she made her way out of the institution, she's still just living to screw over Dante.
Yeah. So yeah, there's that bit of information dropped, and then she said, well, I haven't been back there since I went to see my friend's funeral. Boom! Julie Dwyer's funeral. Fucking holding straight up. Oh, the lady that died in the Olympic pool. Which kicked off the offensive mall rats, which was a major funny scene in Clerks when they go to the wake. So already right there, boom, boom, you've got two major connections. Just in a way, it's throwaway dialogue essentially, but it's not. It's building the world. It's building the characters, showing their connections. You know, it's I really like that moment.
Me too. No, it's really fun and engaging, and it's even just the way the two actors pull it off is so casual.
Yeah.
That it's not like them turning to the characters. It's not like them turning to the camera and going, previously on Mallrats, this is what happened.
Exactly. It feels like two people. It feels so real, like two people who just met, who after slight conversation find some common ground to connect with, and the way they both do it, they finish each other's sentences like that. Like, I've been in that situation before with, like, you know, shit similar to that. Like, oh man, you know this person? Yeah, oh dude, we used to do this. And, you know, that's a very real ass moment.
And you can see the conversation, like, even loosen, like, as it goes on, and the more familiar they become. Like, you even see in their body language, just everything becomes more and more casual. And you can tell Holden, he's going somewhere.
Yeah, they get much more comfortable with each other as the conversation goes. And then the music stops, and the band gets up. And they mention, yeah, there used to be this girl who used to play bass for us, but instead she wanted to go write some funny books, and I forgot what the fuck her comic book's name is. Idiosyncrasy something.
Idiosyncrasy. I thought that's all I remember from it. This is a cameo by who I mentioned in the Mallrats cast as Guinevere Turner. Who the character was named after. So pretty interesting.
I didn't know that. But then they mention, and she used to sing but give us these raspy versions of Debbie Gibson tunes, and so they call her up, and they do this rad sort of rock and roll, almost punky doo-wop song. And I that does sound like Joey Adams singing.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know if it was like a live recording while they were filming, or if they had recorded a version, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, and if that is, I'm sure it is, because it sounds like her voice. You can normally tell when somebody's singing and not, based off of their voice and the style of singing voice they use. And I commend her for that, because you know what? She's actually got a cool voice, and I could see Joey Lauren Adams fronting a Riot Girl band, easy.
Her vocals reminded me of the singer to Divinals.
Divinals, or even like the Donnas, or even L7, like bits of L7 in there.
But yeah, it's a really good song, and the lyrics are somewhat foreshadowing of the events to come.
Definitely.
If you want far to obviously that's why they put it in the movie.
Definitely.
And the whole time, I just love the way the sequence is edited, because the whole time, when it's on stage, she's the main focus, her head takes up most of the frame, and then we keep cutting back to Holden, which is more of a wide shot, and you could tell that, like, in his mind, he thinks she's staring he thinks she's basically, like, serenading him.
Yeah, he thinks she's looking at him, she's singing to him, and his head is getting bigger and bigger. The more this song goes on, Holden's head, he's just getting more and more full of himself. But then, you see this lady.
I love how for Banky to come in, there's room like where he comedically just kind of stumbles into the frame and tries to fuck with Holden, and you can tell he's pushing away his longtime friend. Like, you can tell he gives him, like, a look or something when all, like, Banky was trying to do is, like, offer him, like, a drink or something.
Yeah.
I forgot what he was doing.
But then this lady walks in front of him.
Yeah.
And she's staring. And, they're not paying that lady any attention. And then the song ends, and Holden is just, oh man, I can't wait, and Alyssa does the little, gives out those come hither eyes, and straight up does the, come here motion with her hands, and the lady starts walking towards, and that's when Holden is like, what? Then boom, they start making out. Huh?
You gotta love Banky's reaction.
Banky's reaction is golden. He gets this shit-eating grin, and when he sees Holden's look of despair, and he just starts clapping, and he's smiling. Then, like, he's thinking about it, and he looks around and sees all these other women making out, and it hits him. He's like, this is a gay bar. And still, so he starts clapping some more, and I am loving that moment.
It's priceless.
Yeah, it is. It is definitely one of the nice laugh out loud moments in the film. And
we get that zoom in on Ben Affleck, and you could just tell, like, it literally feels like his world is shifting. Like, he doesn't even, like, know where he is now anymore. And this is where we cut to, like, out of this entire sequence, like, my favorite portion of it is this little bar scene.
This bar, you can see how uncomfortable Ben Affleck is. He is so mad. He is so fucking pissed.
And it goes to show what a fuckhead he is because he was the one who's like, oh yeah, let's go out even though we have a meeting tomorrow, He's the one who initiates the entire thing, basically, and now that he's not getting the response that he expected, now he's the stick in the mud who's like, all right, don't we got a meeting tomorrow? Let's go. Like, let's leave. And he, for once, actually enjoying himself.
Banky is all in on it. Banky is loving the conversation with Alyssa because it's like they are both sort of the same. Like, she is definitely Banky's kind of girl because they could sit there and talk shit about their sexual experiences and go back and forth. And you see a good bit of a friendship building there. And the whole time they're comparing their sexual moments, Ben Affleck is getting more and more annoyed. But you get another major lore drop that kind of changes some things. When Banky starts going over how he doesn't eat out women, this is when they start trading sexual injury stories. And he says, this is as far as I can bend my neck to the right. Because when he was, I think he said sophomore year, he is going down on Brandy Spinning. And I'm like, damn. So Brandy isn't the so Hollywood innocent girl that we saw in Mallrats. I'm like, she's straight up getting eaten out by fucking Banky. Where's TS in this picture? When is this happening? Is this happening before her and TS get together? What?
This is probably early on, and like now that she's like older in Mallrats, she's actually trying to like move past that, probably.
Yeah.
And you gotta love that, like, you get a reference to Michael Rooker, because isn't it like Mr. Spenning busts in and like bends his neck back?
Yeah, Mr. Spenning busts in, and I hate that they give you a shot of her dad busting in there, because that's obviously not Michael Rooker. But I do like that. He comes in there and straight up, he says, pulls his head back like that. And I could imagine that being another reason Michael Rooker, his character, doesn't like TS, because he's already seen his daughter getting it down with a dude at this point.
It makes it so intense. He's seen things that he can't recover from.
Exactly.
No, I just love this entire sequence because it's a pop culture reference that is done really subtly, to the point where it's almost like a Tarantino move, where you've remixed it so much it's just become a new scene. This whole time, it's been a reference to the scene in Jaws, where Hooper, who, again, we literally have a character named Hooper, but that's besides the point, they're comparing their scars that they got, at sea.
Exactly.
Now, where it's sex, and there's even, like, down to the dialogue, Richard Dreyfuss in Jaws, when Quint shares his scar, he goes, "I got that beat." And then he repeats it. He looks over at Brody, "I got that beat." Fucking Joey Lauren Adams does the exact same line read with the exact same cadence.
Yeah, I got that beat. I got that beat.
Kevin Smith was behind the camera like, you gotta do it like Hooper from Jaws.
Yeah. Fuck.
Love that.
Such a great moment. And they get into the idea of what fucking is and what fucking means. And I totally get her idea is, any kind of sexual contact with someone you don't love. It's like, I don't love her, but I'll fuck her. And fucking, like, they raise up there's some interesting bits here.
Interesting thought.
Yeah, definitely interesting food for thought. But yeah, at this point, Ben Affleck is more and more annoyed that Banky is enjoying himself when he thought he was going to have the night and Banky would be the third wheel. But what I like is you see you feel the tension, it is thick, he is ready to fucking go.
You can cut it with a knife.
Yeah. And so they leave, and what happens next?
That is a good question. What is the immediate scene after that one? Because they go home. Is this the one where... no, it's not, because Alyssa comes to Holden.
Yeah, she comes to their apartment, but I'm wondering what happened in between this. Fuck.
That's all I can remember. That's the next, like, big scene.
Yeah, pretty much. Damn.
But it's probably just more shots of them, like, in the apartment, doing what they were doing. Just probably, like, Holden's just kind of being a dick. Still. Lamenting the night.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. There's a knock at the door. And it is Alyssa, and she basically makes a joke out of it. She says, how about this for a comic book? And she basically just throws down what happened the night before about,
One of my favorite lines from Joey Lauren Adams. That's a really well acted moment. It's pretty charming and funny, and you really do start to like Alyssa's personality. And this is what I like about the movie is basically every character is flawed in some way, shape, or form. But
Yeah.
they show you those quirky aspects of them where you almost get to know them like a friend, and it makes you feel bad for, like, not liking them in other scenes. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you don't want to see them go down this path, but what I like about this movie is, like, it's so human where, like, sometimes you just don't control it. Sometimes people just make these decisions out of selfishness that they don't even realize, you know what I mean? And it really puts you up against a wall with, well, now what do you think about these people?
Yeah. So we get them hanging out at a swing set, and you get another, huh?
This was a good conversation too, because I like the idea of, like, what do you consider losing your virginity?
Yeah. And he is so straight up a all-American conservative white male idea of what a couple should be. He's like, it's the standard, man and a woman. It's the standard. He keeps throwing up that, yeah, no, you don't lose your virginity unless you've basically had sex with a dick. And
one of the examples that I love that she just throws out there is, like, so your definition of losing virginity is penetration and breaking the hymen. And she basically just throws out the story, well, I fell on a fence when I was little and it broke my hymen, so what do you call that?
yeah, he's like, well, let me revise again. And
Constantly tracking when he realizes that his argument doesn't really have any legs.
exactly. And fucking, she throws out the whole boom fucking fist. And he's like, what? How? And she's like, well, you know, our bodies are meant to birth children, you know? And
again, for a lot of audiences nowadays, like, this is so different and foreign, and, you know, a lot of movies since Chasing Amy have come along, and yeah, like, tackled these issues, like, arguably better, but, you know, again, it's really interesting just to see, like, wow, this guy is, like, reaching his 30s, and this is still so unfamiliar for him.
yeah.
I think the thing is, people get this feeling about the movie that since he's Ben Affleck, and since it's made to look like this romantic comedy, that you're supposed to root for him, but no, you're really just supposed to observe him through this journey, because there's probably a lot of people, maybe not these exact events, but a lot of people who have gone through similar issues just because they were uninformed.
Yeah.
For some time, that's just, you know, in a weird way, it's a disaster that's, like, everybody's fault but nobody's fault, and, like, if only they were just a little more knowledgeable. But that period in time just did not allow those circumstances to happen. So it's really not a fault of the movie, it's more just part of the drama.
Yeah, you're really not, like you said, you're not really meant to root for anybody. It's really just a character study. It's a time in the life of these types of people, and we're just meant to watch it unfold.
I like that you said that. That's a perfect way to put it. Is it's just a time in life, and this movie, like all the Askewniverse movies, like have that feel. Like, oh, this is just a time in these people's lives. But this, more than anything, really just feels like something that, like, down the road, you know, Holden definitely had this remember years ago when you had that thing for Alyssa? Like, this is just that one moment in time that really just stuck out. That weird fucking growing moment.
Yeah.
In a weird way, like, even though he is in his 30s, it's a weird, almost like coming of age thing
Yeah.
we got going.
Definitely. So they have that interesting conversation on the swing set, and then we get I think what happens next is Brody, not Brody, but Banky talking to him about her being a lesbian and how, why are you hanging out with this girl, man? You know, fucking, you're never gonna get into it, you know, and straight up, they're having a fight, and Ben Affleck, he's like, why are you into her so much? And he's straight up, because I'm in love with her, man. And then you see
And that's
it.
the big aw moment.
Yeah, that's when you see it. Banky's like, oh, fuck. And just kind of walks away. But I can't remember if that happens before or after the big montage scene.
I think the big I think the big montage scene happens because that's what starts getting Banky frustrated. That you gotta understand that they're supposed to be doing work and he's not spending time in the office.
Yeah, he's not working.
Going around, fucking around with Alexa, and so you can see where Banky's coming from. That's not just coming from, oh, she's a lesbian. It's coming from, what the fuck, man? We have shit to do.
Okay.
What do you do?
Boom, it hit me before Alyssa shows up and they go to the swing set. That's when you have Banky and Holding meeting with the executives who want to turn Blunt Man and Chronic into a cartoon.
And this is Jim Hicks.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt fucking Damon. Early ass Matt Damon. But yeah, Jim Hicks. And I'm like, man, the Hicks lineage is a big one. Are they brothers? Are they cousins?
They're clones, Travis.
They are clones. Oh my god.
Rise of the Planet of the Dantes.
Yeah, there you go. Oh my god. Roswell style. So so that's our missing link, because he even mentions right before they get to the swing set that he's talking to her about it, and he is not into the idea of turning Blunt Man and Chronic into a cartoon, while Banky is all about it. To Banky, and to anybody really, that's one of the logical next steps. Whereas Holden is sort of being smart, like, we got to think about this a little more instead of jumping right onto it. You can also see that Holden just does not want to do it, because really Holden doesn't want to continue the comic book anyway.
Yeah, you can tell that, like, he's really not into all of this shit anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't at one point, like, in the days of, like, Clerks, you know, right after high school, but you can even tell, like, at the Comic-Con, he sticks out, like, a sore thumb a little bit.
Yeah,
he
he's bored.
Even really come, like, a comic fan.
Yeah, he's reading somebody else's comic book. He is just bored with it. So yeah, they have that. He says he wants to write something more personal, but he doesn't have anything personal to say. And so, boom, we skip ahead, we cut to Banky and Holden are about to go. They were just out of nowhere invited to a Boston con. And they're about to get on a train. And Banky, he has that massive stack of dirty magazines. And he's like, dude, we're only going to be gone for 2 days. Why do you have that much? And he says, you know, well, sometimes I want straight brown eyes. Sometimes I want this. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, I want to see a girl getting it with a horse. And so he's like, okay, I got to call Alyssa. He gets on the phone, talks to her, and she's in town for somebody's, is it a birthday? What is it she's in town for? But she's like, oh, it sucks, you know, you got to go do this con, but I'm in town, I wanted to hang out. So he's straight up, well, we both don't have to go. It's just a signing thing. And it's like, oh, dude, but really, didn't they establish at the beginning that people are like, oh, we want the guy who draws the comics to sign. So he comes back and Banky is like showing this horse porn to this kid. So Black Beauty couldn't take it anymore, so he does some mounting of his own.
Oh, man.
And so he tells him, hey...
all either, like you mentioned before, we've all either been or seen someone like this where you have the plan set up, and then something else comes up and somebody bails and just leaves you stranded.
Yeah, leaves you stranded. I'm like, that's kind of dickish because this is business. You know what I mean? Like you said, fucking Banky is getting frustrated because Affleck is letting this shit not only get in the way of their friendship, but in the way of their fucking business.
Yeah.
And,
it's really the main frustration, you know what I mean? Later on, like, it's slow, like, Holden starts to think, like, it is definitely about the girlfriend, but it's not her Banky has a problem. It's just fucking Holden, you know, and he can't see past, I can't be the problem, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
It doesn't occur to him that he's the one fucking shit up.
Exactly.
And if he doesn't want to admit it.
Exactly. And fucking Banky knows this. And fucking, almost in a way that you could see maybe they have lived through this before with a different girl. Fucking, because Banky straight up later on is going to tell him, you know, I got your back. This is what you're doing. I'm just here to watch your fucking back. And so we get this montage. First, they straight up first go to play skee ball. And he's like, you grew up on the shore and you never played skee ball? And I'd like to think that this is the same place where God gets in a homeless man's body and plays skee ball.
Oh, man. See, I didn't even think about that. I'm hoping it too now.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Definitely gotta be. So they're playing skee ball, and this is to me, this is one of my least favorite moments in the movie where it is very much a trailer moment, and it's very much a very stereotypical romantic comedy moment where one of them's never done something before and they do it wrong. Boom, they hit a guy with a ball. She hits a guy with a ball. Guy throws it back, which I like. And then he goes to throw and he's like, what'd you do last night? She's like, gotten laid. And he's like, woo, threw it somewhere else. Like, in real life, that is
always a pinball machine.
Yeah, it breaks a fucking pinball machine. In real life, I don't think there's anything that shocking that, especially when a lady says I got laid. In real life, I am not going to just throw this fucking skee ball across the room. You know what I mean? Like, that's such a trailer moment for me. Like, it is there just
like,
for, huh?
Like when we were talking about in the Mallrats review, what's a Kevin Smith moment, what's a studio moment. The reason why, like, the dialogue in that scene really blanks in my head is because the whole thing just kind of feels like a studio moment where, like, you know, it does show more of the characters' interaction, but it could easily be, like, cut and the plot could still, like, you could cut straight to the montage.
Yeah, exactly. You can go straight to the montage. Like, this whole scene doesn't really do anything. It's only there... It is only there for him to be distracted by a girl saying she got laid the night before, and he can be like, oh no, and he throws the skee ball, and...
It doesn't compute. A woman can have sex with other women?
Yeah, it is only there for that. Like, such a trailer moment. But the montage is cute. Obvious montage shit, but what I like is the fact that she's not trying to get with him. She's having fun. They're friends. But you see him liking her more and more. Now it's to the point where he wants more than just to get laid with this girl. You can see that he is actually developing more than a crush. And, fucking, she's watching him draw, she's trying to light her cigarette. That's another thing I wanted to mention. Everybody is motherfucking smoking in this movie. And every time I'm seeing this movie, I'm like, damn, I really want a fucking cigarette, man. People are smoking everywhere. I'm like, this is a whole different time.
All day, they're fucking sitting there drawing and smoking up.
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, man.
Hey, and that's your day. You wake up, you draw, you go to lunch, you come back, you draw, and all the while you got your cigs.
Definitely. But yeah, everyone is smoking. But yeah, the montage is fine. But there's one moment in the montage that is a thing I see too much in movies or cartoons. And it's a small pet peeve. And I wonder if other people notice this as well. God damn, my fucking throat. When Holden is sitting there flipping through the magazine, and Alyssa's sitting there next to him, he is flipping through it backwards. He is going from back to front when he flips these pages. That annoys the shit out of me. I've seen it in many, many cartoons. I've seen it in many movies. Why? Why? I don't fucking understand it at all. Is it accidental? How could it be accidental when it is ingrained in your mind that you flip the opposite way, front to back? It blows. It's like you clearly don't have a manga in your fucking hand. It's a big ass magazine. That is not a fucking manga. You're not reading the fucking Torah. You're reading a fucking magazine. God damn it. And it annoys the shit out of me whenever I see that. It's up
so hard on the dialogue that he's not even wrong. He's flipping the page stupidly.
Yes, it annoys me so much, dude. Because really, the thing is why I notice it so much, especially in this scene, is because nothing's happening. Joey's looking around. You're really paying attention to Alyssa because she walks away and then she brings that little girl to sit next to him. But moments like that have me bored. I'm not a fan of the lovey-dovey montage shit. So I'm watching what he's doing while all this is going on. He thinks he's talking to her. His head is in this magazine, but he is flipping the pages the wrong fucking way. Oh, it annoys me. It's up there with pet peeves of mine where when you have a band in a show or a movie and they are clearly not playing the instruments, and or like on some of the newer Sabrina episodes when they have a little band and there's the bass is a heavy instrument in the front of the sound in this music, but nobody is playing a fucking bass. And you know what I mean? Like, it's shit like that annoys the fuck out of me.
The little details. But you just don't get it, man. See, he's flipping the pages backwards to forward because you see his thinking's all backwards, man. Get with it. No, I never really got what this little denouement or whatever the fuck it is, like where she walks away and brings the kid. Like, it really seems like, I mean,
I'd be like, hey lady, don't touch my child.
Yeah, number one. And number two, I don't know what Ben Affleck is talking about because we don't hear what he's saying, but he could have said something like wildly appropriate to the kid thinking he was talking to Alyssa.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
So that's what I think. I think he just said something like wildly fucked up, but at the same time, like just as a moment in the montage itself, I feel like it probably has some meaning. I feel like Kevin Smith really was trying to, with some of these little moments, like create images that you kind of look at and think about for a little bit.
Yeah, it's just a cute little moment.
Whether it's like, I don't know. It's like an attempt, but I feel like it could be like cut out. It really doesn't add much to the montage. But like you said, it's cute, I guess. I just don't know where she got that child from.
Yeah, what it adds to the montage is my aggravation of motherfuckers flipping through magazines wrong.
It's pain.
So the montage ends, and well, no, another moment in the montage is, I guess it's her birthday, and he gives her this hideous cake.
It's ugly. It's bad.
This naked woman titty cake. Huh?
It doesn't. You don't even want to eat it. It doesn't even look good.
Yeah, it is so ugly. So fucking ugly. And she's laughing at it, which is totally fine. It's just there for a laugh. It's, oh, they're bonding. So what happens next? The montage is over. She's hanging out at the house. They're playing video games. Basically, she leaves. And I think this is when Banky is talking about, you're not going to get anywhere with her. I think this is where the I fucking love her, man moment comes in.
Yeah, this is definitely it, because we also, another popular sequence, this is a monologue that gets referenced back to a lot. Isn't this where he draws the little street for him? And it's like, here's the fucking Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and what else was it?
It was your stereotypical male effeminate lesbian, your stereotypical man-hating lesbian, Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny, and there's a $100 bill in the middle of the street, and he says, which one is going to pick this $100 up first? And he straight up says, the D. And he's like, why? He's like, I don't know. He's like, because the other ones are a figment of your fucking imagination.
And he gets up in his fucking face. Like, honestly, like, I would have jumped up right about there. He's screaming in his ear.
Yeah, there's like no reason for Banky to be that pissed. Like, yeah, he could have done his little exam, but didn't have to get all up in Holden's face like that.
That's how you could tell there's been this passage of time now of just his friend acting fucking weird for this person who he thinks he has no chance with. So it's out of caring, but also, like, it is out of, like, now...
The frustration is taking over.
He's never seen... I mean, he could have seen Holden like this before, and maybe that's... But in my mind, he's never seen his friend like this before.
Yeah, probably so. And this is when we get... Because I fucking love her, man. And Banky's just like, whoa, man. I can't fuck with this now. But Banky does...
So Banky's also getting up in his business where it's like, oh wait, no, is this a later discussion? It's a later discussion. Never mind.
So that happens, and I believe next is when they go to that restaurant, right? Holden and Alyssa.
Yeah.
Okay, since we're there, let me smoke another cig. Okay, we're back, and now we are... This is going to be a long one, folks. We were just talking about that. Because there's a lot to say, man. There's a... It's an incredibly deep film. So we're at the date. They're at a restaurant, and they're about to leave, and she haggles the price for this ugly ass piece of art on the wall, and she gets it for him, and they're driving, and she's like, yeah, this is for you, and so he pulls over, and you get one of your stereotypical kind of romantic comedy. I'm pouring my everything out for you, all right here, and just like she says, it's incredibly unfair to drop all this shit on her when he knew from the get-go and that this was not supposed to be a romantic thing. But instead he fucking thinks that he can get away with it, so he straight up pours his heart out to her about how she is everything he's ever wanted in a human being. And what I like is you see the look of dread on her face. He straight up tells her, I love you. And she's just like, you love me? And then he fucking just pours it out. Good little acting part on on a young Ben Affleck, and all that. And so when he dumps it all out there, she's like, how fucking dare you? And he just cannot grasp why he is wrong. Huh?
He can't grasp what he did wrong, and it's so clear what he did wrong. Like she mentioned, it's like from the beginning, you knew you had no chance. So, in a weird way, this film kind of has like this melancholic, grinding kind of feel to it sometimes, because like he's a square peg trying to fit into a round hole, essentially.
Yeah.
That like it never meant to work, and he manages to fuck with it so hard that he manages to barely fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he does, but like you should have never gotten to that point to begin with, because it's only going to lead down to more disaster. And another thing I like about the scene is, from a filmmaking standpoint, is how well lit it is, especially when they exit the car.
For a nighttime rainy scene, and definitely the low budget this movie has, like you said, it's a very well lit nighttime rainy scene. And you gotta love the fact that it's raining, and when he says "I love you," you get the look on her face and the thunderclap.
It's all perfectly done, and I think this movie is where Kevin Smith really started his fascination with editing, because you see as his career goes on, he starts editing his own movies.
Yeah.
In an interview, he is he gives high praise to editing all the time. He says it's his favorite part of the filmmaking process, when before it was him and Scott Mosier, because Scott was a little bit more of the technical mind. And on this film, he really just had like the way he wanted it to go so mapped out in his head that he went from being kind of like a backseat editor, like telling Scott like, oh, this is kind of what I was feeling, to like, hey, can you give me like a quick tutorial of this? I want to try this out.
Yeah, exactly. And I totally get that, because when it comes to like our music videos and our more scripted stuff we used to do, I love the editing process, especially if I have the time, because it's like putting a puzzle together, I don't know any of the technical terms for things, like juxtaposition and all that. I don't really know all the technical terms, but I know how to sort of do it, but it's fun to me. It's a very fun part of the process. It's long, and could be boring. It's boring for everyone involved except for the person that's doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind
Because
of
you
like
just
when
have
I'm.
to be all into it. And my worst part is just the burn on my eyes after a while.
And it's just like with me and mixing and mastering the tracks we record. Like that's a real fun part for me too. Is because like my main fun part is playing the music, but what annoys me is, not getting that perfect take and having to redo it and redo it and redo it until you finally get the take you want. And then when it comes to the mixing and mastering, you're listening to it, you're finding out all the little kinks, what you want to be higher than and what you want to be lower, and because it's already done, you know. So yeah, I really like the process of putting things together artistically.
Fun, it just could be really tedious because I remember when I was making those really rudimentary like fan film ideas that I still like the idea of doing those videos. I just want much better editing software because I look back on the way I did them and I'm like, oh Lord. But it was really tedious to like constantly, because a lot of the videos were like my narration. So I was editing and narrating at the same time for each shot. That's how little I knew about editing at the time. And it could be really tedious just repeating the same lines over and over again and then listening back to it and being like, well, I didn't really like the way I said that one. Oh, I'm rushing too fast on that read. It could be a lot, but it is really fun because, like you said, it is like a weird puzzle game, and you're watching, like, what you want to see be made, be created before your very eyes.
Yeah, it's incredibly fun. But like I said, it's boring for everyone involved except for the person doing it. Like, because like when Zach and I are in here recording music, Zach's having fun playing the music, I'm having fun playing the music till we get our actual point. But once it comes to the mixing and mastering part, fucking, I'm sitting here, headphones on, doing things. Zach's chilling, going through his phone and stuff, and it's like just waiting until those other people are needed again.
Mm-hmm.
But, so yeah, he drops all of this on her lap. And straight up, she has every right to be pissed off, and she storms out of the car, and he gets out of the... Huh?
Literally storms out.
Yeah, in a storm. And he gets out, and he's following her, and she's yelling at her, or yelling at him, and she's fucking crying. And he straight up says...
No.
Huh?
This is the first big Joey Lauren Adams freakout.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah. And he has no idea why he is wrong in this situation, and straight up says, will people change? And it's like, oh, what a fucking dick, man. Like, it is bigger than that, dude. Like, there's no way to fucking just turn that on and turn it off. And, ooh, wow.
How he screams that line, there is no changing things, Holden. I am fucking gay.
Yeah, and like, wow, what a real moment, though. What a real moment, because there are people like that. And so he starts, leaving, and next thing you know, she runs over there and starts making out with him. So now she's just been guilted into a relationship with him. And fucking...
And that real ultimate oh no shot, you thought she made her point, you're going to transition into the next scene. He's shit out of luck. You thought that was going to be the big explosion of the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though it's fairly early on into the movie, you're thinking like, wow, we're already at this point. But no, she comes back and like this most recent time watching it, you do almost want to go like, oh no, don't do it.
Yeah, because like from this point on, like there is no saving this relationship. There, friendship-wise, from this point on, it is a toxic relationship. She is guilted into this relationship, and he is he is getting everything that he wants right now. And so, next thing you know, it's the next morning, and they've clearly boned. And Banky comes home, and they're laying on the bed or on his couch, and he like just storms out of there.
For Banky, it's really cool to see a character like this who you think is all fun and games and stuff like that have these serious moments showing like who they really are underneath.
Yeah, because
I've always liked this scene with the two of them together chilling outside.
Yeah, they go outside, and Ben's just talking about it, and he's telling him, look, man, this isn't going to end well. You're too conservative for this girl, dude. You've never experienced some of the things that she has done, and, you know, you're just going to go too deep, man, and it's not going to end well, and I'm just here to watch your back, which I love the shit out of that, because that's some true friend shit right there. You know, Holden is clearly blinded by all this. He is on top of the world because he has he has basically gotten the uncatchable fish. You know, he has essentially, with his masculinity, been able to change a gay girl straight in his mind.
So he thinks.
Yeah, exactly, in his mind. Because to me, watching this, like I said, she is guilted into this relationship. So she is, at first, she's guilted into it, but you see her kind of getting interested into the idea of, okay, let me try it out with a guy. So she gives it a chance. But he gives no fucks. He's like, I am fucking man, and you can't, you can't escape this.
This is where the movie becomes, as Kevin Smith self-reported, this is where Chasing Amy becomes his science fiction movie, where, she actually falls for him. But this is before we realize, I always feel like this movie gets oversimplified by it being like, well, Ben Affleck falls in love with a lesbian, because as the movie progresses, like, yes, she identifies herself as a lesbian now, but we really start to see it's more complicated than that. She has this whole past of experimentation.
Yeah.
And she's not wrong for doing it. And she's not necessarily wrong for keeping him in the dark about it either, because, again, and she mentions it later, all he had to do was ask.
Exactly.
But he's insecure. And he's too in his own mind. He doesn't know how to discuss these issues like an adult, because it's so foreign to him that he doesn't know how to navigate it. And this is what people are constantly warning him about. But like you said, he is Captain Ahab in this moment, who's just, it's really fucked up on his part, because it's almost like he does love Alyssa. I believe that he does love her, but he also has this ego where he views her as a prize.
It's that trophy mentality. And also, going back to all he had to do was ask, he never straight up asked her if she had sex with a man while they were swinging on the swing set, and she was going over some of her sexual exploits. Like, she even mentions during that scene that she fucked Caitlin Bree, and that was another revelation that I meant to throw down during that scene, but I forgot. So her and Caitlin Bree got it on. But also, so she never had to tell him that she had sex with other men before. So based on that conversation, he just believes that she's had sex with women, and so he thinks he's given her her first round of dick. And which is far from the truth. So what happens next? Because right now we're just building up to finger cuffs, basically. I think one of the next moments,
Isn't there that scene with Alyssa where she goes to her group of friends?
Yeah, her.
And, they're all this is where she announces that she's had sex with Holden.
Yeah, her and her friends, and she's like, all her friends are obviously gay. They're all having wine. They're doing something with the comic book, and she like her friend says, she's using the pronoun game. They, them, we, and she's not ready to tell them that she's with a guy. And what I love is when she straight up does say his name is Holden, the look of defeat and almost disgust in her friends' faces is real as fuck too.
Yeah.
And when she says, another one bites the dust, you're like, damn, you evil bitches, like, damn.
It's brutal.
Like, oh, twist the knife.
A drop in that moment.
Huh?
You could hear a pin drop in that moment, and it really must suck for Alyssa because, she seems like somebody who, up to that point before meeting Holden, seemed to understand herself enough. You know what I mean? She seemed very comfortable in the lesbian lifestyle. By the end of the movie, she's comfortable in the lesbian lifestyle. So what makes this relationship so toxic is Holden is able to, bring back up all those old insecurities that she had left behind.
And throw them in her face as if she was doing something wrong.
Now it is bothering her again, you know what I mean? Because now it is leaving her to overthink it and stuff like that, because she does want Holden. She does want to be with him. She's willing to give him a try, and by throwing this back in his face, it's making her seem like, what the fuck is wrong, when she did nothing wrong.
Exactly.
And I love when we do get to that ice rink scene, she says it flat out, like, can't you just take the fucking compliment that I was willing to give you a shot?
Right, exactly. So what happens next is her friends are clearly just not, it's almost like, okay, well, these really aren't your friends if they're just gonna basically drop you because you decided to go with a guy. Like they're clearly not your friends either.
It does show how it is from both sides,
Yeah, exactly. So I like that, you get that little glimpse into it. But then we get this scene where Holden and her are laying in the bed, and he's straight up, why me? Why me? And I wanted to be like, motherfucker, because you guilted her ass into this. You fucking dick. You.
And he's not the one who even should be saying why me, because why you right now is just getting everything you've ever wanted to want. You have nothing to complain about.
Exactly.
I like how you start to notice in Kevin Smith movies that the characters are all very similar from that Clerks dynamic. You have the more uptight one and the more easygoing one. And what I like about with each progression is, you really see it from all angles. I compare it to, this is a big comparison, but I compare, Robert De Niro's performances in some of the early Scorsese movies. Each movie, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, these are all different, movies examining a different form of crazy. All the characters he plays are crazy in some other aspect, where all of Kevin Smith's main characters kind of have that Dante-esque nature or view of the world, but we really see, how far that mindset goes for each and every one of them. Dante, T.S., and Holden, we really see, the different extremes between their sort of, why me mentality, I'm not even supposed to be here mentality.
Yeah,
why is this going on? What did I do mentality?
Exactly, because very much, like we mentioned between T.S. and Dante, that Dante, his selfishness is on a heavier level. Because you get that same kind of macho insecurity when she mentions she sucked 37 dicks. And,
Yes.
Huh?
That's the thing. Yeah, I was thinking of that scene where it feels very similar especially once we get to the finger cups part.
Yeah.
Like,
and like this is
like,
this is 37 dicks that she sucked, and she straight up tells him, it's easier to do that than just have sex with anybody. But Dante is clearly just insecure about it. He's like, damn, man, fucking every time I kiss this girl, all this stuff. Shit that really nobody should give a damn about, because who cares how many people your lady has been with, because you've done and been with many other ladies as much as she's been with men. So who cares about that shit? That's why I say, like, motherfucking Silent Bob has some of the best relationship advice, hands down, that I've ever seen in any kind of movie when we get to it. But this scene, I just don't like this scene that much, because he's so into himself. Like, why me? He just needs more, what's the word I'm looking for? He needs more, encouragement, I guess. He just needs to hear how great he is. So she straight up tells him, I've just never really liked to do what society wanted me to do, so I went this way. She just explains, I've experimented and now I'm comfortable trying to date a guy. And so it's a long dialogue. Huh?
So she says it there too. She briefly mentions experimentation.
Pretty much, yeah. Without straight up going into detail.
And that should be it. That's the indication.
Because he knows. He knows already that she's fucked around with many women, but she never had a chance to tell him about the guys she might have been with. Because all he wants to hear is, it's been women. Just like when Hooper says, every man wants to be the Marco Polo of sex. You always want to be the guy that discovered uncharted territory. Which Hooper's scene there too has a lot of great relationship advice as well. But so she goes into this long dialogue scene, and he kind of ruins it for a goofy little joke to say, oh, well, could you just tell your friends that you just needed some serious deep dicking? And, oh, it's so funny, they're hitting each other with the pillows. I like that he's laying there with the ashtray on his stomach, showing that they've clearly been smoking cigarettes in bed, which is like, man, Stas and I used to do that shit too. We used to smoke all the time in the house. But nowadays it's like, nah, let's not smoke in the house anymore. Like, I don't even smoke in our studio anymore. Sometimes I wish I did, so I wouldn't have to be cutting these, getting to these breaks. But,
but yeah, that line, it is meant to be the cute, like, end to the thing, but it does admittedly piss me off a little bit, because you could see that, he's kind of falling into... There's a little Banky in Holden that he doesn't let out. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Because he already said, too, when they were leaving the restaurant, and she was mentioning, I might need you to hang this up. And he says, oh, you need to tell the, what does he say? He doesn't say Pink Mafia, but he says, he makes a lesbian reference about her friends. Oh, the girl patrol finding out you needed a man to help you hang a picture. Like, he throws those in there when he's with her. He throws those little jokes around. So, yeah.
So is this when the fucking yearbook falls down on his desk?
Yeah, this is Finger Cuffs. And he throws the yearbook down, and Affleck is like, what's this? He's like, well, look at it. Finger Cuffs. What's Finger Cuffs? And he's like, oh, do you remember Coey? I bumped into him at the stores the other day. And I love this scene. When you have Coey giving you the description.
Hey, yo, Coey.
Yeah, I like the way he talks. He's got that Jersey thing going down. Yeah, so man,
That is one of Kevin Smith's high school buddies, along with the guy who originally played Rick Darris. That guy playing Coey, I think, was supposed to be the original Silent Bob before Kev took over.
oh damn. So yeah, he gives it along, and it's in front of the quick stop, which is cool. You have full on quick stop in the background, giving us another. Huh?
Apparently, Jeff Anderson is there because Randall is credited in the movie, but he never like actually shows up anywhere. So I'd assume like it's a blink and you'll miss it sort of cameo in front of the quick stop.
Yeah, maybe even in a deleted scene.
Yeah, more than likely. But that was always cool. I liked that the quick stop made an appearance. It just feels right. And this monologue is just really interesting. It's one of the few other shots that stand out in the movie because a lot of it is pretty standard, fare. And then we cut to this, like, we're in Banky's POV, essentially.
Yeah. And he's giving you this, he whips his dick out, rubbing it on her leg, chasing her around, and, she starts sucking it, and then, like, I'm thinking, then he looks at me, he goes, yo, Coey, he says it like that, yo, Coey. And so I start slowly pulling her pants down, because I think, maybe she's going to hit me, but nah, she's all into it, man, and fucking, I love it, and when he's just like, yes, we called her finger cuffs, because she had us both on end to end, like, 2 fingers stuck in some Chinese finger cuffs. I was like, oh, shit. So that's where she gets the nickname. But really cool shot. I like that. There's like no cuts. It's a nice, long, straight up dialogue moment, and I really dig just scenes like that where it's turn the camera on and give me a story, and so I like that part a lot. And so he's telling her, he's like, yeah, man, so. He's like, what do you want me to do with... No, she wouldn't have done that, And he's like, dude...
This is something I want to bring up before. When they had that first little I love you moment, this is the second blow-up with him and Banky. And this is where now Holden's insecurities are just shot up to 11 because he doesn't want to believe that this is true. Like, he's like, Coey's full of shit. Like, there's no way that actually happened. And... this is, again, one of those moments where Banky just can't read the situation because he's fed up and because he's Banky, so he's still doing and handling the argument the way he normally would with his typical bullshit, and this is where fucking Holden almost decks him because he's still not taking it that seriously. You can tell he's like, well, does she have a disease? Like, she could be as infectious as that monkey from Outbreak.
Yeah.
Like, he's incredibly rude, and also he's the one who brought this fucking argument to the forefront. So it really is a juxtaposition from it is still coming from the I'm just watching your back mentality.
But he really should not have said anything.
Yeah, he's stoking the flame a little bit.
Exactly.
And this is where, like, he realizes what he did wrong because Holden storms out, like, because he's about to beat the shit out of him. And you could tell, like, even in the way the line delivery changes, he's like, I've been working out a lot recently, like, trying to threaten him, but, like, he knows he overstepped his boundary. Like, for the first time, we see Banky actually realize, oh, fuck, I may have gone too far in a few places. Yeah, so
he's trying to, tone it down and make little jokes. But yeah, he really shouldn't have brought this information to him. Like, in his mind, yeah, he was doing the watching your back thing, but really, it was going to come to light anyway. Banky really should have just let that information go.
If anything, you were going to get what you wanted anyway, because he was going to find out, but again, he probably just reacted on instinct.
Exactly.
There's a lot of things that go into it. One, he knows that Holden's going to get hurt. 2, there is something inherently funny about it to him since he's not in the relationship.
Yeah.
So those two emotions sort of clash. Plus the the frustration that we mentioned before. So
Yeah.
it really is like nobody really knows how to handle this situation properly because nobody except for Hooper like really has this kind of experience.
Exactly. It's like everyone is, we're looking at this in hindsight like, yeah, everybody's handling everything wrong, but they're all handling it very real and very human. Like you said, like he's just going on impulse, and he doesn't want to hurt Holden. He, like you said, he's doing it as I'm watching your back. This is a thing that happened, but really he should not, in real life, he should not be getting in the middle of their relationship. And it's some real shit. Friends do that. We've all been in this kind of situation before.
Yeah.
So it's like
Kevin Smith called this movie like the ultimate bromance, the bromantic comedy, because at its heart, like, yes, it is about Alyssa, but it really is about the friendship between Banky and Holden, or at least that's what it becomes about in like the final act.
Yeah.
Is you really start to get home to that angle that they don't just imply, they straight up say that like Banky's feelings for Holden borderline like past friendship.
Yeah. So now we get the what I call the epic record store scene, but there's a lot I gotta say here. A whole lot I've got written down. But let me smoke a cigarette before we get to that. So now we're at another favorite scene of mine. When Holden is in the record store with Hooper. And Hooper is straight up giving Holden some of the best advice he can use in this situation. He's saying, you aren't used to this kind of thing. You don't know about basically our lifestyle. Because Hooper is obviously a gay man as well. And Holden, like we have said, he comes from a very conservative family and has very conservative views based off of his dialogue with Alyssa, talking about the standard definition of losing virginity and the standard idea of a man and a woman, and that's how it is supposed to be. Hopper is giving him some seriously sound advice. And he's like, it's just going to build up. It's just going to build up. And Holden is obviously not taking any of this advice to heed. And then you get that fun little moment with the kid saying, "Oh, are you Hooper X?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he puts on his front.
Affleck?
Say what?
I said, "Oh, you mean Casey Affleck?"
Yeah, yeah, little Casey Affleck.
You see that man over there?
That's the devil. I love that shit. You see that look on that kid's face, and that kid just starts shaking his head like, "Yeah, fuck this." And I like how Holden is just taking it. He's like, "Okay, I'll entertain this." And then the whole "Assalamu alaikum," my word is my bond, all that shit. And that little kid is getting into it, man.
That was a fun little moment. But yeah, I'm interested. So you wrote the notes for this scene, like you said. Yeah, he gives really straightforward and honestly just easy advice.
Yeah, like all Holden had to do was listen.
Holden's one of those dudes that when he's out in public, again, because he has these insecurities, like everybody wears masks in their day-to-day life. Like everybody, to some extent, has to like put up some sort of social discourse, but Holden just never allows himself to just take advice and learn from other people, because when he goes outside, he likes to think that he's the guy who's got everything under control. He doesn't need the advice. Everything's okay with him.
Exactly.
People don't need to worry. When on the inside, like, he's a real fixer-upper.
Exactly. Even when, like I said many times already, Silent Bob gives some of the best relationship advice ever. Holden looks like he's taking it in. But what does he do with Bob's advice? He basically ruins his possible friendship with both Banky and Alyssa, which is jumping way ahead. We'll get there because there's a lot to talk about with that scene as well. But what I have in my notes here is, because we've basically gone over this scene, but what could my notes possibly entail? Number one is seeing this time in the world when the music store was king. Just CDs everywhere. There's still vinyl records there, but the CDs are king. It's the late 90s at this point. The CD store is massive. I remember I was there for when the CD stores were at their massive peak. And I lived through seeing them dwindle and finally just go away. And to the point where places like Best Buy, which are all-purpose stores, finally dwindle all of their CDs. And places like that just don't exist anymore, really. Especially the big chains. And everybody always talks about the video stores and their Blockbusters and their mom and pop video stores. Me, I don't have that kind of attachment to that stuff, but mine is to the big, massive record stores. And it's very much the same. And we both sides of the grid, the video guys and the music guys, we watched our passions just slowly deteriorate and become nothing. And I miss that. I really miss that a lot, is being able to go into a big CD store chain and being able to see obscure ass shit. Huh?
For miles. Rows of CDs for miles.
Exactly.
And even the stores that are around nowadays, like there are, because vinyl has made a comeback and stuff like that, in vinyl like stores, they will have CDs, but like you said, like the number of it has just severely declined.
Rows and rows, like you said, for miles, and the most obscure bands you could think of would be there. I even remember when you could get Skinny Puppy at Best Buy. You know, fucking Skinny Puppy is something you would never see anywhere else anymore. Like, and when I was buying Skinny Puppy at Best Buy, that's when all our big chains were gone already. But you could get some of the most obscure shit at fucking Blockbuster Music, fucking Sam Goody, motherfucking Warehouse Music. Like, dude, it was such a great fucking, I could be in there all day just looking through shit. And so watching these characters go through that, I noticed more background shit. So I made...
That's what I thought you were...
Say what?
That's what I thought you were going to mention, because there's all those different names in the background.
All those different CDs.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, let me pay attention here. Let me see who and what CDs are on this big display. And first off, I'll say, wow, I noticed a lot of good shit that was out at that time. There's Sepultura Roots, fantastic album. There's No Doubt's Tragic Kingdom up there, fantastic album. There's, huh?
Is that classic?
Yeah, and then there's Enya's Memory of Trees, which, wow, that is a great album. But damn, that also shows you how diverse those big stores were, because, you know, you could have Enya on display next to the bigger rock shit. You could have something as abrasive as Sepultura Roots up there next to No Doubt. And then there, I noticed there's Misfits Collection 2 up there. There's Fear Factory's Demanufacture, which, my God, that album is amazing. Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill is up there. Another phenomenal album. Say what?
I said another classic, and not really foreshadowing, but it does show that, you know, it could have been the set. They could have filmed it in an actual, like, CD store, but, you know, we see Alanis Morissette pop up in various forms throughout the Askewniverse from here, whether it be her actually appearing in the films or her music showing up.
Yeah, seriously. And then there's also... They walk a little more, and then, boom, you see... there's Blues Travelers 4, which is a good album. Then there's the Fugees, the Score album up there. Another fucking classic. But as I'm noticing all these different artists up there on the wall, I start to notice at the very top of the display shelf is genre selection. So now I'm like, okay, not only am I paying attention to what artist is up on the wall, I'm also paying attention to where these artists are categorized under, and I'm like, who the fuck stocked these shelves? Because now I notice, wait a minute, Alanis Morissette, the Fugees, and Fear Factory are in the jazz section? What? What the fuck? And
not
then,
like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong here.
And then I see Blind Melon Soup album, another classic, up there with Korn's debut album, another classic. But they're in the new age section? Like, what?
I don't know about this new age music.
Like, you've got Enya up there already. What's happening? What the fuck is happening? Then I notice motherfucking Alice in Chains' self-titled Three-Legged Dog album, the final album with the original group, and Chili Peppers' One Hot Minute and Blood Sugar Sex Magic in the international, under the international board. What the fuck is international about that?
Around the world, man.
Right? All around the world. We can make time. Ning, ning, nong, ning, 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 nong, ning, ning, nong.
I really appreciate that, man.
So then, like, I notice Green Day in the reggae section. And not just one Green Day album, it's fucking Kerplunk, it's Insomniac, it's Dookie, it's their very first little Slappy Hour album. It's like all of their albums up to 1997 in the reggae section. Like, number one...
I don't know, Travis, that makes perfect sense to me.
Number one, maybe I'm reading too deep here. Maybe, just maybe, this is all the popular and new releases. That's how they would always do that, is have them displayed on the big wall that people could see. Maybe those genre labels on top are just there to say, these are the type of genres we curate, we have. You know, so maybe that isn't even, they're not even, it's just there to say...
You know, because all over record stores and all different kinds of shops like that, like, you'll see, like, there'll be posters over the shelves, but, like, the posters aren't necessarily, like, linked to,
exactly.
Here's this section. It's more just the aesthetic of the store.
Exactly.
But, you know, it is funny, though, that, like, you could have, like, a little... time to rant over it. It's just because the way it looks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Because, obviously that's the new releases and most popular. There for the consumer to see instantly and, oh, this is what I wanted, I'm going to grab it and go. So obviously those genres could just be there to say, this is what the store has to offer. So, maybe my rant is unsound, but let me keep going because not only does this represent a time when music stores were massive? But there is a Zydeco section. And wow, what a time to be alive when a music store would fucking represent the fact that they have a Zydeco genre section. You know? But what trips me out the most is Michael fucking Jackson is in the Zydeco section. Like, what the fuck?
He was very experimental, Travis. You didn't catch his really revolutionary Zydeco performance.
Oh my god. But yeah, like, obviously that's gotta be what that is, but, you know, it's just a little observation of mine, and so yeah, rant over.
An entertaining rant it was.
Yeah.
The whole scene, though, is really entertaining. I liked the fact that it was set in the CD store. You know, it's nice aesthetically, but I also like the camera movement we do get, because Kevin Smith definitely does get criticized for a lot of his shots being static, but here we have a nice little dolly going on as they're walking across the shelves.
Yeah, a little sideways movement. And I do like, too, his camera movement during the whole rainy night scene. It's very on foot.
Yeah.
And, you know, I like that kind of style, too. Like, you get a lot of different style kind of cinematography with Kevin Smith stuff. Like, he gets a lot of flack for the camera sitting still a lot, but there's a lot of different stuff going on, too, you know?
It sucks because I feel like what makes Kevin so humble is that he is very self-aware and is able to throw jabs at himself, but it also is kind of sad that sometimes it really does feel like a lot of these criticisms that get thrown at his movies, like, he does believe it, when you could really look at shots like that and be like, all right, come on, Kev, like, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Like, you could do some really interesting, maybe not, like, groundbreaking new shots, like, nothing incredibly technical, but, like, he's more than just the Clerks guy, you know what I mean? And especially, we're not going to talk about Tusk, but what I've noticed, too, about his filmmaking is as he's gotten older, in my opinion, the writing has maybe lost a little bit of its luster, but his camera work, he's actually been trying to diversify a little bit. Like in Tusk, he plays around with the zooms. He plays around with some really Tarantino-y shots.
Yeah, there's like those cool Tarantino like quick zooms when you get a reveal of something, especially when they first reveal the walrus, and one of my favorite shots in that fucking movie, and you just boom, zoom up to it. I'm like, oh, glorious.
Another one of my favorite shots, it's the same shot where it's when Wallace and Allie are fucking, no, it's Alice and Teddy. They're busting in, and they look around the corner, both pointing out their guns down a staircase, and they do that zoom out.
Yeah.
But there's also just a lot of good, like, crane shots of Howard Howe's house. So I do feel like he's more than just the stop and record kind of guy.
Yeah.
It just sort of works with this material where the writing is the main focus.
Yeah. Because you don't want too many distractions, like especially if the writing is the main focus, you don't want too much to distract from that writing.
Yeah, exactly. So what he's doing is just like, well, these two characters in the scene, why am I gonna do like shot reverse shot in multiple angles, which can become distracting in their own right, where it's more impressive in a weird way for an actor just to like, all right,
over
here's
their
your lines.
lines.
Now let's just watch you do it. Yeah. They gotta memorize it.
Exactly. Like I am always more impressed with long takes where the camera is mostly still, but like it's becoming a thing now where more and more people are trying to just make these long take movements, and I'm fine with that. Like take Birdman for instance, where the camera's very much moving, but it's long takes, and that's some impressive shit. You can tell when the camera does cut, but they always do it in a spot where it makes sense. Like it might zoom into a door as the door's being opened, and boom, it zooms out. Like that's obviously where that cut is.
Yeah.
But everything up to that cut and after that cut are highly impressive. Just having for everyone to have to be on their mark at the exact same time with multiple people and multiple people being into it, like that is much more impressive than the reverse shot where boom, you're gonna look at me when I'm talking. Boom, you're just close up on the other person when they're talking. Like that is so easy.
You're able just to either one read your lines off screen or have them fed to you.
Exactly.
And you can say all your lines at once without really. You could have the other actor there interacting, but honestly, like when you're doing shot reverse shot, depending on like how clever you are, like they can be two completely different filming times.
Exactly.
And they can show up in the performance because you're not having that moment with the actors.
Exactly.
Is the hockey scene after the record store scene?
The hockey scene is after the record store. So Hooper tells him, look, if you're that worried about it, just ask her. Ask her before it becomes something too big that the both of you can't handle. Pretty sound advice.
Fuck it up.
Huh?
He finds a way to fuck it up. He finds a way to fuck up all the advice he's given because he does technically ask about it, but he chooses the shittiest way to do it and the worst location to do it. Yeah,
worst place to do it, worst way to do it. It is, you just see his animosity toward this situation. You already tell that he is steaming, like he is fucking mad, and she can tell he's mad about something. And
it's good. It's really good on two levels to have it set at a hockey rink scene. Because one, Kevin Smith could, get a hockey scene in there, and two, he manages to make it a little bit more artistically inclined. That as the fight with Holden and Alyssa is boiling before it comes to that explosion, we keep cutting back to the game.
Yeah.
And, whether it be two, team members fighting or being knocked into something, like the motions and how they're feeling kind of correlate with each other.
Yeah, they both reference each other. She mentions how she likes the visitors because they're like the underdogs in the town coming to fight, and he mentions that, well, how many visitors have you had? You must like visitors. Like, how fucking passive-aggressive, man. How just dickish. How many visitors have you had any visitors at your house since I've been here? And it's like, dude, really? And when he straight up mentions, so what's finger cuffs? Boom. You see, what I like about her is you see it like, boom, it hits her and she's like, fuck. And while that happens, the one team scores, and that kind of represents him getting one up on her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always liked that edit. And she knows exactly what he's talking about now, but on her part, she's actually seems to play dumb a little bit, but it's also because there's two things going about it. One, she's nervous, and two,
this is not the place.
Him as well, because it's not the place, and he just keeps pushing and pushing, and she changed the subject. She's yelling at the team again. She's just trying to move on.
She does not want to embarrass him in front of all these people.
She realizes that, yeah, exactly. She kind of turns it against him, because she realizes he's not gonna budge until, I say what he wants me to say. But if I'm gonna say what he wants me to say, guess what? I'm gonna embarrass the shit out of him then.
Yeah. And so he's like, who's Rick Darris? And she's like, yeah, we used to hang out a lot. And she's straight up telling the truth. He used to come over to my house. They really took advantage of my parents and never being there all the time. And so he keeps pushing, and she just doesn't want to embarrass him.
She's saying it already, yeah. Like, what do you think that means? They abused my parents, not let it's
Exactly.
Like, it's very obvious.
She's saying it without saying it. And so she straight up, well, what did you do? What was it? He fucked me while I blew him while Coey fucked me. Right there. Boom. And that's where the fight with the hockey guys really gets into it. And what'd you want me to say? And damn, like, everyone's staring at him now.
They're all staring, and then there's that one guy, I told you these were good seats.
Yeah.
Final gag. But yeah, no, she is saying straight facts where, all he really had to do was, hang out with her at home and just, say, listen, I'm unfamiliar with this stuff and I've heard this rumor. What is this about? Not even that. Not even wording it like that. There's just a better way just to make it more of a calm conversation instead of an interrogation or a cross-examination.
Exactly.
Bars right now with these rhymes.
And so she storms out. He's following her. And he is so a fucking dick right here. Just trying to make her feel bad for having an experimental period. She's telling him this shit was in high school. I didn't give a fuck about any of this. And he is throwing it in her fucking face. Like, I love that this scene is in here because it's real. You know what I mean? It's like I've said all along. It's fucking real. But man, is it hard to watch. Because you're like,
This is the second big Joey Lauren Adams freakout.
Like, you are a fucking dick right now, Holden. Shut your fucking mouth. You're being a fucking dick, and he can't handle it. He doesn't see where he's wrong in this situation, and she is trying to, put the fire out. Like, she goes to hug him and shit, and she's like, and he just pushes her away. Like, wow, dude, really? Do you really think there's a chance after this, bro? Like, dude, you dick.
And he still manages to dig a further hole for himself as the movie continues. We're kind of like, in a weird way, this is like the climax. I guess you could say the scene where he suggests the threesome could be the
this is like the
climax.
pre-climax.
This is like the big blow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is where in a typical comedy, this is where it would happen.
Yeah, this is where in normal romantic comedies, this is where they'd have the big blow up, and then everybody would mope around for about 5-10 minutes, and then they'd get back together. But no, that is not what happens here. So yeah, they fucking get out of there. And I'm guessing the next day, he's at that little place. And Jay and Silent Bob walk in, and we get that classic line that I always like it whenever Holden shows back up. He always throws this line back at Jay and Bob. Fucking Jay says, "Look at this morose motherfucker right here. Looks like someone shit in your cereal." And they sit down. Basically, they're picking up a royalty check for Holden using their likeness as the Bluntman and Chronic characters. And Jay, like I said, they remind me more of the more reserved Clerk style Jay and Silent Bob.
Yeah.
Jay he's not as over the top. He's saying a bunch of dirty shit, but he's more quiet with it. He's looking down as he's saying a lot of it. And even like Bob, like fucking, this is when you get some of the, which I like too, whenever Silent Bob finally has enough of Jay's shit and just like shuts him the fuck up, basically.
One of my favorite Silent Bob moments, because this is one of the best performances from both of them. Because in a weird way, like seeing Jay so quiet almost makes some of the lines funnier because of how quiet he's being.
Yeah.
Because you can tell in reality he probably is just his bark's worse than his bite. But one of my favorite Silent Bob moments is when he's like, "Did you know I want to be a dancer in Vegas?" And he does that quick little sha-sha.
Yeah.
I just didn't even know that.
Yeah, seriously. But this is a great fucking scene. Bob straight up says, "Man, shut the fuck up. Always yapping, man. Always fucking talking." And you get this great fucking moment, man. Bob tells him of the Amy chick that he was with, and how basically it's the same situation where Bob heard about some of her past and let it eat him up and eat him up and eat him up, and he just kept letting it stew, and he just kept pushing her away. So, and when he should have just let it go, because guess what? She's with him now. All that shit before doesn't matter. It's all about you and her in this moment.
What I really want to know, though, is, because this kind of course I'm being silly a little bit, but is he only silent when he's with Jay, or, like, who does he talk to?
Yeah, like, when he's with this girl, like, is he silent as well?
Like when she talks about her past, does he just like shake his head like full of fear or something like that,
yeah.
like scaredly?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you never really see Silent Bob interact alone with anyone other than.
This is probably the first girl he ever spoke to.
Yeah,
That's what made it mean, man.
And I like it how he's like he knew that girl was the one, and he pushed her away, and he regrets the way he acted every day of his life, and he's still trying to find that girl, and that he's spending the rest of his life chasing Amy. And title drop.
He said it, folks.
Yeah, he said it.
Maybe that's the reason he became Silent Bob, is because he's sad.
It could very well be.
He took his voice.
But real damn good sound advice for anybody, especially an adult who has had his own past, and the woman who has had her own past, or whoever you're with. This advice applies to any relationship, any romantic relationship, whether it is between a woman and a woman, a man and a man, a man and a woman. Who cares? Like anybody can feel those insecurities. But the fact is guess what? Guess who they're with now? Guess who matters now?
You.
And such great advice.
What I love about this is it's the first time we've seen Silent Bob go on a monologue.
Yeah.
Because, and that sort of becomes a thing later, is as the movies go on, he doesn't have much to say in Dogma, but we see in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yeah, the big rights, the copyrights thing. And then, I one of my favorite moments is the sign on the back of the van said "Critters from Hollywood." You dumb fuck.
It's so good. You dumb fuck. I love that line read. But then there's also that moment later when they're having the shootout where he's like discussing the contract. We see him reboot.
Yeah.
He does the whole Glenn Ross. So as it goes on, he starts to test himself further with like how far can Silent Bob speak. And what's funny about this is this was the one in Chasing Amy. This was the one scene that has Jay in it. They're on the poster, but they're only in it for one scene, and so he warned the crew. He's like, Jason Mewes isn't like a professional actor. This could either be the funnest day of shooting or the longest day of shooting. So just be warned.
But here's the thing. Oh, go ahead.
So Jay comes in and starts nailing his lines, like one takes. And it's Kevin, who wrote the script, who just can't get this monologue down. And he keep there for God knows. I don't know how long he kept them there, but they were all screwing with him after the shoot, like, oh yeah, Jason really kept us there, man.
Yeah, that's great.
And the thing that he was also doing was, since he couldn't memorize his own writing, he would start improvising, and that was actually kind of like, not pissing off Ben Affleck, but definitely kind of like peeving him, because he, like, at that time, Kevin was like the kind of director who's like, don't ad-lib, say the words as written. That's how I wrote them.
Yeah.
You want to do your own lines, go write your own movie. And I'm sure he said it like somewhat jokingly, but at the same time, that was how he felt.
Yeah.
And fucking Ben puts him to test. Oh, so what? Now you could do this? And he's like, I'm the writer. I could do what I want.
I could change the shit. But you said, they're on the poster. Now, I've seen that poster, but it is not the original poster. The original poster just has Joey Lauren Adams on it. And that's why it annoys me with the other poster where it's got Jay and Silent Bob doing the back-to-back and Holden and Banky on there. It annoys me when I see that version of the poster because I'm like, now you are advertising the wrong fucking movie.
Yeah.
Because now
really
you got...
You can put it as much in black and white to make it look dramatic as you want. Like, when I see Jay and Silent Bob back-to-back, that implies that they are reoccurring characters in the movie.
And not just a bigger cameo.
And I do like that, though, in a weird way, because it brings people like me in. And sure, it's going to confuse us at first, but now you're sitting here like, oh, wait, there's like something else going on. You end up becoming wrapped up in what's going on.
Yeah.
To the point where you're like, oh, wait, it's not Bob in this?
Yeah. Seriously.
It's the lead. It is on record in the Askewniverse, like, the least amount of screen time they have.
Definitely. Because they have more shots and stuff in Clerks easily.
Oh yeah, and it really shows how serious he was taking this script. Where, in a weird way. I mean, again, like I said, I hadn't seen Jersey Girl, but it was what I've heard about it is it's his attempt to be a little bit more straightforward, dramatic. And I feel like, without Jay and Silent Bob, this could have easily been like his big drama or dramedy.
Yeah.
The fact that they are there, I'm so happy that this is part of the Askewniverse because it proves that, it seems to be the whole lesson of the movie, like, not everything fits the same formula. And, whatever works.
Yeah, like I said, one movie can be a cartoon, one movie can be grounded in reality, another movie can have high fantasy. It's, that is a hard thing to pull off in one universe series where, and Kevin Smith pulls it off pretty damn well, where we accept the fact that this is a world where real shit's going down, but then, a year or two later, Chris Rock is falling out of the sky,
Oh, man.
So what happens next? What's up?
And you think the boy finally got it.
Yeah.
He looks up, like, chasing Amy, and you think, like, oh, Holden, you haven't failed us. You haven't failed us yet. Come on, buddy. Like, you could stick the landing and at least save the friendship.
Yeah, you can come out of this, Holden. You done some dick ass shit, but you have a chance to come out of this.
You're deep in the hole, but you can climb yourself out. But instead, he goes and grabs himself a shovel.
Yeah, he goes hardcore. He takes all this advice wrong and goes hard fucking core creepy, basically.
Because he still wants what he wants. He can't accept that what he wants isn't what he needs, and that it's just not gonna work. So he goes the complete opposite angle, and in order to get my way, I gotta make my friend comfortable with this. Well, all this starts adding up, and he comes to the conclusion that they should have a threesome.
Yeah, and oh man, so he sits them both down and tells them, okay, this is why I brought y'all here. Alyssa, you...
And it's so sad, too, because as this fucking scene is going on, like, it was really hitting me this time, too, because Banky doesn't really know what he's going to propose, but as it's going on, like, Alyssa knows where this is going.
Yeah.
She's probably here before, but probably not to as fucked up as a standard as this. And it was really hitting me in the feels how it's like, yes, Holden is an asshole, but you still kind of got to be like, wow, he really... It's just sad overall because, like, he really just doesn't want to let this go.
Yeah,
and
it's like, how naive can you be?
Exactly. So he is a dickhead, but, like, you do feel somewhat, not pity, but you're just like, man, this is just devastating for everybody involved.
Yeah, and so he sits him down. He's like, Alyssa, you've done some things, and I'm not comfortable because I haven't been able to do them things. And he says, Banky, you're uncomfortable because you're gay. And Banky's straight up not gay. And
No, I don't think he's gay either. So it's really dickish on his part to basically, like, think he has him pegged.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying there isn't a love for Holden that you could... Like
they've been buddies that long, you know...
If you're being Freudian about it, maybe, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. But what's surprising is the movie does kind of want you to believe that he is. I don't think he is, but the movie does want you to believe that he is because he is the one who does fairly casually jump on the idea.
Yeah, and mostly... But he agrees to it, but hopes it's not going to go down. Because
but it's still something you didn't expect from this character throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, because at first he's like, no. At first he's like, no, this is not happening. And Ben Affleck keeps prying at him, man. Prying all the homophobic stuff. It makes sense, man. You're gay. You're gay. And
that's the big problem with Holden is he has the tendency that, like, he's going to be Mr. Detective and he's going to throw your dirty laundry at you to convince you. He's a gaslighter. He gaslights you into thinking you're the one that's doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And the line that kills me the most right before he proposes the threesome is, like I said, Alyssa knows where this is going, and she just, like, it's such a vulnerable moment on her part that she can't even, like, say it out loud. She's just like, don't do it. Like, She whispers it. She can't get it out. Because, like, this is now where shit has reached its peak already. This is where, this is where all ties get cut. This is the end.
Yeah. And she's like, don't do it. Don't do it. So he says, we all need to have sex with each other. That way, Banky can be more comfortable with you in our relationship, and you and I can share this moment, and I can experience something like this. And man, her fucking damn reaction is pretty damn good. And straight up saying no, good on her, man. Good on her, because, like, wow, dude. Wow. Like, that's all you can say is, like, wow. This is where you go. This is what you thought all this meant. The Chasing Amy story, fucking Hooper giving you this advice. This is what you think you should do. Is basically guilt everybody into a fucking threesome so you can be comfortable. You're putting these two people in an uncomfortable position for you to fucking be comfortable. Wow.
And it's really hypocritical on Holden's part, because if we go back to the fight outside the ice rink, one of my favorite lines is, he's trying to, like, pass it off as he cares for Alyssa, and, like, oh my god, they used you. And she says it perfectly. She's, no, in a way I used them.
Exactly.
Because I was experimenting. Holden here is not doing that. That situation, as much, like, whatever thoughts you may have about the finger cuff situation, it is what it is. It happened how it happened. It naturally sort of just led into that.
Yeah.
You know, it's experimentation. He is using them at this moment to make himself comfortable. And it's really fucking, like, nowadays, imagine this going down, your career's over.
Yeah, man. Like, this is some dark shit, man. Like, some deep, dark shit. Where it's like, all you motherfuckers, well, really, because when she says no, Banky straight up says, thank God. Banky wasn't wanting to happen at all. He was entertaining the idea, because this is his friend, and he's still trying to save this friendship, even in this crazy, fucked up moment. She says no. Banky says, thank God, indicating he didn't want to do it to begin with. And she straight up tells him, I can't do this with you because, what if all the what ifs she mentions, like even the one with like probably not, but what if I feel something for Banky and then you hold this animosity towards me and I leave you for Banky, and so many possibilities she throws out.
That's going to make him spiral further down this rabbit hole, because what it is all he needed to do. Again, this isn't a relationship that should have happened. She's, like I said, she seems comfortable as a lesbian. That is her preference. So although she has experimented, she can get down with a guy. Like, that is what she's, like, into. And, where was I going with this? I'm trying to put my thoughts together here, because it's a big scene.
It is.
And, like you were saying, she goes through all the different possibilities, and all he had to do, this is what I was getting at, is not overthink it. Yeah. She's a lesbian, that's what she likes, end of story. Not overthink it, not understand, but why? Is there a way I can change it? How do I achieve it? Because let's say now you do. Now you've just entered this situation. So that's all it is this whole movie's a trap that he's just gonna, like, fucking crash his way out of.
Yeah.
And it's only his fault. It's nobody else's fault but himself. Like, again, even the stuff that you could fault Alyssa or Banky for, it's only because he's creating such a fuss about all this shit.
Yeah. Yeah, he is definitely at fault for where we are at now in this movie.
And it's a little sad that both Banky and Alyssa are forced into this situation, but then Alyssa kind of throws a little jab Banky's way on her way out, where she's like, oh, you could have them all to yourself now.
Yeah, she didn't need to say that.
She didn't really need to say it, because, again, like, you could argue his thing is a little obsessive, but it's not terribly obsessive. It really only becomes more of an issue later on in the movie, where before it was just Banky being Banky. Again, it's a build-up.
Because this scene,
time.
too, also has Ben Affleck straight up laying a kiss on Banky.
Yeah.
And Banky's just surprised and shit, like, what the fuck? But he doesn't really, he also doesn't act on it, like, gross, what the fuck, man? He kind of handles it very much like he did when Hooper kissed him. Which, it just shows that Banky's a comfortable-ass dude with who he is, whether or not he is gay or straight. He's just a comfortable-ass dude around people. What he felt threatened by was his business and his 20-year-long friendship. He didn't want to lose that, which ultimately he did.
It does. And it sucks, because it was, in a weird way, just like, he did play a part in it, but it was just sort of taken from him, and he just reacted the way he only knew how to react.
Yeah.
Whereas Holden doesn't stop and think about this stuff, and even when he does, he acts like he does. He's always like, I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of meditation, but he doesn't understand that overthinking isn't deep thinking or introspection in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is, again, it's a more self-centered mindset where you are just trying to hack the world into getting the response you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that's what, again, Holden is not, he's the protagonist, he is not the hero.
Yeah, like, you're not really meant to root for anybody in this movie, like we said. It's just a character study on a moment in time and a situation that we're all just here to observe and make our own assessment over what we just witnessed. And like I said, I am actually glad that nobody got back together. I hate that Banky and Holden basically aren't really friends anymore. Because after she leaves, it's boom, 1 year later, and we catch Holden, or is Holden the one signing the death of goddamn Chronic?
No, it's Banky. And
yeah.
What's really sad about this is there really is no indication that their friendship ever patched up again. Like, they kind of leave on this note that, like, you know, in a way, they still care for each other. You know, it's 20 years, you know. There's always going to be a love there. But even in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, you know, they never interact together.
Yeah, you don't see Banky until at the end when he's at the film shoot.
And you even see Banky in Reboot? I don't even think he's there.
Banky is not in Reboot. You have more of a closure for Holden and Alyssa. But yeah, you could easily say Banky just took the money and ran, you know?
But it's weird. Like, don't you think he would be at Chronicon?
Yeah, because, you know, it's still essentially his movie that's being rebooted.
Dude, he's probably like the new... We gotta see if they ever continue, like, where this universe came off. If they do the Clerks 3, if they do the Mallrats 2, we gotta see Banky basically being, like, with Kevin Feige and the Marvel dudes, like, having that level of money now to the point where, like, he's out on his own now.
Yeah, like, he don't need nobody.
Yeah, but it sucks. They never interact. And I guess it's weird.
They get that little wave. There's that little wave where Banky's like, oh, I'm glad to see you. So you could easily say that, yeah, they probably got together after this. But then, you know, Holden walks away, throws down his Chasing Amy comic book to Alyssa, who is now with a lady who doesn't really understand the culture.
Yeah, of Comic-Con and stuff like that, which is interesting to see. Because now, like, this whole movie, we've pretty much seen that world having to deal with the LGBT world as it was then. Whereas now we got that little inversion at the end. And you can see Alyssa's just, like, at home in both.
Yeah.
But what I was going to mention about the reboot thing is it does give them closure, which I'm a little mixed about, is because I wouldn't say it's necessarily like all is forgiven, but there is definitely a way more happier ending for those two in the end.
Yeah.
Did they say they're not? They're definitely not together, but in a sense they are still.
He's basically the surrogate father, because, you know, they used his sperm to incubate. I can't remember if it was her or her wife.
So, yeah, he's technically still a part of that dynamic and a part of her life, which is probably, you know, better than he's gonna fucking get.
Yeah.
So,
he gets to be a dad to the daughter with two moms, basically. He's just the co-parent, really.
Yeah.
Which is also pretty damn progressive for an ending for him from a movie that was fairly progressive for its time, because you do have this co-parent dynamic in a lot of relationships today that are like that.
Mm-hmm. So that was fun to see. But yeah, in a weird way, I do also like just leaving it open that like it doesn't. But it is kind of it's comforting to know like things come around in the end.
Yeah.
And everybody can be happy, even if one is a self-centered asshole.
So
I just kind of like it that the comic that he writes, I guess, is him finally realizing the error of his ways. But the thing about it is, though, is it is also weirdly creepy if you think about it, that he made this whole comic that it's called Chasing Amy, but like he name drops her in the comic, and the character is clearly supposed to be him. In real life, I don't think it would have gotten as wholesome as a response as it did, and more of a Jesus Christ, you need help.
Yeah. Seriously.
Well, at least change the name, dude.
Seriously.
Now, I hate this fucking poster that I just found of Chasing Amy. It's from Fandango, and it doesn't even look like Joey Lauren Adams on the cover. It looks like a fucking advertisement to a Cameron Diaz movie, and it's Chasing Amy, and all the critic quotes they use, outrageously hilarious. 2 thumbs up. I fucking it looks more blatantly a comedy than the original poster.
Which
she's like hugging a dude in the poster, but she's got like this cheeky look on her face. Just look up let me see what I have it on. What I looked up to find this poster.
Because there's I am
Yeah.
Oh, what?
Stop chasing down the thing. Look at that.
Is that the one where, alright, you just see the man from behind?
Yeah, and she's hugging him, but she's got that, like, quirky smile on her face.
Yeah, that is a bad cover.
That is not the movie.
Yeah, that is a bad cover. Outrageous humor. Like, I don't think so, guy.
Funny and truthful, that, yeah, but at the same time, it's just the way it's in the bold blue lettering. Whoa! Come see this wacky comedy starring Ben Affleck, Joey Lauren Adams, and made from the creators of Clerks.
There's another poster that has a really bad font. It says special view Askewniverse collection, and the font is bad, but it's got her kind of holding Ben Affleck, and she's got this. Both of them kind of have this somber look on their face, but in the background you've got Banky smiling, Hooper X behind him, and then Jay and Silent Bob doing the back-to-back.
I gotta find this, Jesus Christ.
There are some bad fucking covers for this thing. Like I said, the original is the best one, because it just doesn't tell you what you're getting. You just have Joey Lauren Adams on there in black and white. It just says Chasing Amy, and it says, it's not who you love, it's how. Finally, a comedy that tells it like it feels.
Which is another funny thing for people who aren't like familiar with the beauty. Oh my god! I think I found it. I think I found the one. It looks like it's trying to be like The Usual Suspects or some shit.
Yeah, like
I found.
It's like what? How are you representing this movie?
So I found this one poster, and you said, yeah, it's not who you love, it's how, which that's a good tagline, but you have a picture of all of them, which are clearly, like, not from the shoot. You have the classic picture of Lauren Adams, but there's kind of, like, a blur effect behind it, which almost looks like the the Lost Highway cover with Bill Pullman.
Yeah.
That's what I'm vibe of. And, yeah, and it says, a triumph. Hilarious, sexy, and undeniably moving. I mean, sex is a subject. I wouldn't call it a necessarily sexy movie. I think it's a pretty mature movie, honestly, but mature until it's not mature, let's just say.
And then there's another one. Here's another one. It says, the funniest, most honest sex comedy I've ever seen. Sex is easy, love is hard. Like, none of that represents this This is not a sex comedy.
I mean, it could be, because, again, sex is, like, the main, theme of the movie, but it's not a sex comedy in the way... It's not fucking Porky's.
Yeah, this is like that clearly is trying to advertise this like Porky's, whereas this movie is more about like a dialogue on sex and shit like that, you know? Here, let's have a conversation about real shit.
Sexual sexuality, thank you.
I mean,
I
wow.
like conversations about fucking Archie and Jughead going at it. That's the respectable, mature dialogue I look for, good sir.
Oh my god, but yeah, before we go into our final thoughts, what's up?
It is tough to advertise this movie because even for Kevin Smith, who was already kind of hard to advertise in the 90s, like, how do you really go about marketing this aside from that one poster? It really is just Joey Lauren Adams chasing Amy. But something I wanted to mention was for people who are, like, unfamiliar with this movie, how many people do you think go into the movie thinking that Joey Lord Adams' character is named Amy?
Yeah, that's another thing, too, is, like, I remember thinking for the longest time that she would be Amy, and then, like, being like, why are they calling her Alyssa? And then, you don't understand that it's called Chasing Amy because of Silent Bob's story.
And that it's almost like putting a definition to the situation that's going on.
Yeah. But before we get into our final thoughts here, let me smoke a cig and then we'll end this podcast. Okay, we're back for the final cig break. There was one thing I forgot to mention. Part of the lore is... I forget when she mentioned that she fucked Gwen Turner. And that opens up a huge can of worms. Because, Gwen Turner was played by Joey Lauren Adams in Mallrats. So
she technically went and fucked herself.
Yeah, she fucking technically fucked herself. Like, what? But anyway...
I thought you were meant because I'm like I mentioned before, I'm like the real Gwen Turner showed up in this movie, and I thought you meant like her character, but I'm like, oh wait, no, you mean the character Gwen Turner.
Yeah. So before we hit up the final thoughts, I had asked on our Fresh from the Basement podcast Facebook group. I like to do this, but I always forget to. But anyway, I asked. If anyone has any thoughts, and I'll read them out on the podcast. And the only person to say anything is our buddy John Short. He says, it has its flaws, definitely, but I find that it improves as you get older, and it's probably my favorite of Kevin Smith's more serious and also more grounded films. Which, yeah, it does get better as you get older. Huh?
I'd have to agree, yeah, because that's exactly what I'm going through right now is, like I mentioned, I went from loving it, but then as I went through, I just kind of, it fell off for me. I kind of was never in the mood to watch it. I would watch Mallrats a million times over, and then I'm not really in the mood to watch Chasing Amy, and I think it is just because it is more mature and it's more of an emotional movie, whereas, when I typically want to watch I'm a teenager. I want to watch Mallrats, relax, and laugh. Whereas here's a movie, you actually got to sit down and, think about it a little bit. It's going to be a little uncomfortable. It's a whole different vibe that I think when you're younger, maybe it's maturity or maybe it's just your attention span. There's just something about it that you kind of remember it as that, like we've kept saying, you remember it as that one boring one, but what's really ironic about it is for as much dialogue that these movies have, this is one of the ones that has the most to say. So it's all warranted, and so that's a big agreement from me, where the older you get, the more open to it you could become.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with John as well. It's like I've said before, I hated it when I first saw it, liked it a little more the second time, and this time I absolutely love it. It's still not one that I plan on going back to all that much, but I'm glad I got to see it through different eyes this time and really pay attention and understand where it fits in the universe, and just to see, because I'm not a romantic comedy fan, and to have one that is incredibly smart, throws a lot of the tropes out the window, and really makes you think when it's over, instead of it just being a little lovey movie, a mushy mush fest, you know.
Yeah, I would have to agree, because this happens after we record for a couple of hours. Is I think of a point and then immediately just shoot, and then I'm like, oh shit, what he said, I really just like thought of something. Retrace a little bit, because we can honestly like just cut this part out so I can get my point.
Well, what was your point going to be?
That's what I'm trying to remember. So I feel like by hearing what you were talking about, it'll kind of like, oh fuck, that's what I want to say.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that, you know, it really just throws all of your stereotype romantic comedy tropes, turns them up.
Before that, before we got into like the romantic comedy aspect of it,
I guess seeing it through different eyes as I'm older. I don't plan on. Yeah.
The point I want to make was, it's funny that when I was younger and I loved it that first initial time, I feel like I kind of loved it for all the wrong reasons in a weird way. It's like I just liked it on a very basic level of like, oh, I like that's trying to take itself more seriously. But a lot of the more serious nuances of it kind of went over my head, where there was like the first time watching it, I barely like understood, like I didn't quite, even though it's blatantly said, I didn't quite catch what finger cuffs was, and I was like, where now I actually love it for the actual content and the actual, you know, themes of the movie and where it brought my mind, and, you know, the dialogue that it brought up in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you actually, like, pay attention to it. At first, I just found it entertaining, and then it didn't become entertaining for me, so I, like, left it alone for a while. But now, it's really much different, where I really do see myself, you know, giving this movie another watch, you know, in the future.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see. Because like I said, my opinion's always changing with it, but this has been one of the most entertaining watches of it. And I think it's because I gave it that time and came into it with an open mind. So it definitely, because like I said, there was that one time where I thought it was my favorite Kevin Smith movie for that one split second in time, and then it shot down. Whereas now, I don't know where I would put it. It probably would be easily like top 3, top 4. So
yeah, it's crazy, because I was ready to always have this one pretty low on the scale, but now that I'm seeing it through different eyes, I'm like, wow, this is kind of bumping some other ones out of the way. I can't wait to see where it lands when we do our final, like our little top favorites at the end of a reboot.
yeah, because it's tough between this and Dogma, because they're both real powerhouse movies, but for two completely different reasons, and they're both dealing with, like, they're two of Kevin Smith's movies that deal with the heaviest subject matter, I guess, but
Yeah.
they do them in such different ways that I feel like they both work. like I said, when this movie came out, it was either the movie where people were like, I'm done with Kevin Smith, or people were like, Kevin Smith finally got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's I still think I like Dogma the most over this one as far as heavy subject matter goes, because I love how it talks about religion.
Yeah. No, Dogma is, and we're gonna get into it once we get to the Dogma podcast, but in many ways it could be regarded as, if this isn't regarded as Kevin Smith's masterpiece by like a wider audience, like I would say this, like Dogma might be Kevin Smith's masterpiece, where like everything in it just works, or at least from what I remember, everything in it just works. Like, whenever I watch Dogma, I never really walk out with like, oh, this scene was a little, that was a little weirdly done. I kind of walk out and like, wow, all of that was just, it all felt right.
Yeah. Because like I said, this is definitely... Go ahead.
But we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. Because this is definitely, like, my main final thoughts is, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I have a new opinion on this movie. And, it's one that I still don't really think I'll go back to it all that much. Because I'm never really in the mood for a more slow burn thought piece all the time. And
yeah,
so I'll hold on to this memory to be like, damn, this shit is a damn good movie. It's a damn good romantic comedy. It's a damn good entry in the whole Askewniverse. The characters and themes. It's a movie that just really makes you think. And like you were saying, it's uncomfortable. It makes you think. Like, in many ways, it's like when you get an album from an artist who normally does the same kind of shit, right? And then you get an album that is so out of left field that really makes you think. It's a little harder to listen to, but you kind of appreciate it more because of that, because it's sort of forcing you to pay more attention and appreciate tiny details and the nuance, and it's, in many ways, it's more experimental at this point in his filmography than what he had done previously. It's very much like a band going in the prog rock scene. Like you gotta sit down and pay attention. It is not a I'm going to drive to the store and listen to a song kind of album. This is not a movie that you turn on because you just need a movie on. This is a movie you got to sit down, you got to pay attention, and you got to think about it. It's not a popcorn movie.
And even if you don't enjoy the movie, I feel like it still creates a good dialogue, and I think that on its own is worthwhile if a movie can get you talking. So I would definitely recommend it. I've never been on the hate train for this film, even when I was kind of like apathetic towards it. Like, I never hated it. It just, if you're watching it in the wrong mindset, it could get annoying for you. So yeah, that's exactly all I'm going to say is it's best viewed under a certain lens, and it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea for various different reasons, but that's fine. You know what I mean? The whole moral of the movie is everyone's going to have their cup of tea and all of them's fine. Just don't be a dick.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't be a fucking dick. And listen to people's advice who are more qualified than you. But yeah, I can't wait to get into Dogma next. Josh owns Dogma on DVD, so I'm going to have to borrow that from him. I can finally give him his Mallrats back. I've had Mallrats since goddamn fucking like September, October. But yeah, huh?
You could do the good old trade-off.
Yup, give him his Mallrats back. Let me get his Dogma. But maybe we can do the next one next Saturday. Tomorrow I'm doing a Gorillaz retrospective with John tomorrow morning.
Nice.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like, ready to do another one of those. It was about 4 years ago. Me, Zach, and Josh did one. And so there's been a couple more Gorillaz releases since then. And can't wait to jump into some more Gorillaz. And we've already did that Lady Gaga one. I just rendered it for the MP4 for YouTube and the MP3 to send to Jason Lloyd. And so in a minute, when we sign off, I'll go ahead and start loading this to the computer and get this one moving.
Alrighty then, sounds like a plan. And hey, hope to see you here next week, Basement Dwellers.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Hell yeah, for the goddamn
Yes.
Dogma podcast. So we'll see you guys later.
Matt.
Matt. Yeah, love that shit. So we'll see you guys later.